To order the November 26, 2018 Royal Oak City Commission meeting to order. We're going to begin with an invocation given by Commissioner Dubuck, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you can.
Tonight we gather in the wake of Thanksgiving. I'm hopeful that everyone here was able to gather at some point over the long weekend with family and friends to take time to reflect on how much there is to be thankful for. And we have much to be thankful for in our community. For my part, I'm thankful for how safe our city is, and I'm thankful for the men and women of our police and fire departments who work every day to keep it that way. I'm thankful for our dedicated DPS crews who work the plows and the leaf collectors, who trim the trees and fill the potholes and fix the burst pipes in the freeze of winter and maintain our parks in the heat of the summer. And I'm thankful for the pride they take in an all too thankless job that, when done well, often means no one notices they did it. I'm thankful for the talented city staff who show up in good faith every day to do the work of making our community the wonderful place it is to live. I'm thankful for my neighbors, and I'm thankful that you all have entrusted me and all of us at this table with the awesome responsibility of making decisions on behalf of all the nearly 60,000 of us that live here. I'm thankful for the ability to disagree without seeing evil or malcontent in the faces of others. I'm thankful for the ability to compromise and for the continued hope that in spite of the nasty rhetoric on the national stage, that here in our community, we can have respectful, healthy dialogue and debate about the future of our community, all the while knowing that we all want the same thing, which is to keep our city a wonderful place to live for current and future generations of Royal Oakers. I'm thankful for being able to raise my family here. Royal Oak is an awesome community, and I'm thankful to be a part of it. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's not closing today for some reason.
I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, so no, I think it doesn't match this.
All right, that brings us to item number 4 tonight, which is public comment. For those of you who are here to speak tonight, quickly, the City Commission values and relies on the input of our fellow citizens to make decisions. Now's the time set aside for the public to address the City Commission on any city-related issues, both on the agenda or not. There are no public hearings scheduled for tonight, so this will be the only time for the public to address the City Commission. I ask that comments be directed to the City Commission as a whole and not to individual commissioners. If you wish to speak tonight, either at public comment or at the public hearing that isn't taking place tonight, please wait until recognized by me, the mayor, then come up to the podium. For the record, we'll ask you to state your name and address for the record. Please be mindful the City Commission wants to hear from anyone who wishes to speak tonight, so comments are limited to 3 minutes or less, and there's a timer right up here to help you keep track of your time. If you don't wish to speak tonight, that's all right. Please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us on the City Commission with your comments. Please note that the City Commission will not respond directly to questions during public comment. However, we are taking notes and will address questions when the agenda topic is discussed or refer it to the proper city department if the matter is not scheduled on the agenda. I also ask that, sometimes we have topics that are emotional, and there are many sides on many different topics that you avoid and try not to applaud. It does sometimes make people who may be in the minority or people who have a different opinion unlikely or less likely to come up and express their opinion. So out of respect for everybody and their points of views, we just ask that you don't applaud, come up, do your public comment, we're listening, and we'll go from there. So who's first? Mr. Gittinger with a fast hand.
Good evening, everybody. I am Shelley Kemp. I'm the Executive Director for the Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce. The address is 200 South Washington Avenue. This is Mary Beth Fitzpatrick. She is a superintendent of Royal Oak Schools. And this is Jason Gittinger. He is man about town and the owner of Detroit School of Rock and Pop Music. We are here. I've been nominated to speak for about the Rome Home Planning Committee. We are the Rome Home Planning Committee, part of it. Rome Home is the 12th item on your agenda. A couple of months ago, Jason was here to let all of you know about this event. Tonight, we're asking the city to recognize it as an official city event. And while your agenda does say that we are asking for Rome Home to be an official city-sponsored event, that does not mean that we are asking for any monetary support. To help encourage and make it easier for community organizations to create events, our committee is putting together a list of resources that could be available through either the school district, the city, city, the Chamber of Commerce, or any other entities in the city. The committee would like to be able to have these resources available for approved Roam Home groups at no cost to them. This ask requires that the event be designated as a city-sponsored event. The mission of Roam Home is to invite former Royal Oak residents, current residents, and future residents to come home to Royal Oak to celebrate our amazing city and to highlight community service opportunities for all residents and visitors. We intend that this will be an annual celebration in the city occurring in October of each year, starting in 2019. For this first year, 2 events will bookend a week-long celebration of Royal Oak. On October 18th or 19th, there will be a community and volunteer celebration in the evening at as yet to be reserved location. Each participating organization, club, group will be able to have a booth to showcase their organization and to describe any special event that they will host during Roam Home Week, as well as opportunities for the general public to engage with each group throughout the year. Then on Sunday, October 27th, 2019, the Royal Oak DDA will host its annual Spooktacular event downtown. Spooktacular will be the closing ceremonies, if you will, for the Roam Home 2019 events. All community groups are invited to create an event during the festival week to celebrate their organization. We've already connected with with several groups in the area, and I will keep it short and I won't go through all the list, but that's including the Royal Oak Churches, Boys and Girls Club, all those kind of great community events. To be clear, this event will be occurring during the week-long celebration will be organized and planned by the groups that are participating, not by one entity. There might be a local musical group that puts on a concert, or scout troops that could plant trees, you know, that kind of thing. Restaurants might host a special live entertainment one night for people that graduated in the 80s or the 90s. Use your imagination and find an event that fits your group's style and budget. For the time being, the Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce is providing basic logistical support for Roam Home. The ultimate goal is to form a 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization to be the umbrella organization. There is a website, roamhomeroyaloak.com, if you'd like some more information, and we also have a Facebook page. And lastly, we are planning a citywide informational meeting on Wednesday, January 9th at 4 p.m. at the library auditorium, and more info will be posted soon. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Nice work. All right, who's next? Mr. Ashley.
My name is Alan Ashley. I live like Royal Oak Manor, and I'd like to thank the city of Royal Oak for shafting the seniors again. You did this at Arts Beats and Eats when we were told to park. You'd be no vendors parking around there. 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon of the event, Lieutenant Moore came around and threw us out saying, you can't park here, it's all for vendors. Well, it happened again. We've been parking around the people who can't walk very long distance, parking around our building. Saturday around 1:30, I got an email from the Sergeant Tycho at the police department telling us that you will be ticketed from now on. Those tickets will not be dismissed. We now have to park across the street at the parking lot between 6th and 7th on Main Street. That means people with carts and wheelchairs and whatever will be pushing across 4 lanes of traffic, crossing 2 railroad tracks. If anybody has looked at the sidewalks over there by the railroad tracks before and after, there had been so much rain washing that now there's a 4 to 6 inch distance between the top of the sidewalk and the ground. There's not enough room for somebody in a walker to walk while somebody else. And if they trip or have that walker fall or on their cane and they miss the sidewalk and fall, they're going to be injured by those railroad tracks and will not be able to get up. Again, I've contacted the city this morning. I have been waiting since 2 o'clock this afternoon to hear back from the police on whether we can park there or not. And we were told that the chances of you parking around your building are 98% you won't do it. No reason given. Again, this city does not care about seniors at all. And then I find out today that across the street from us, the reason why nothing was done on that little parking lot that I suggest you use you can use eminent domain to buy that property, use government free tax money to fix up, we pay it back. No, there's going to be a 6-story condos with underground parking across on that 6th Street, 222 6th Street, and you're going to be taking up the 2 houses on Williams, 609 and 611. I will be having my complaints at the hearing on December 11th, but this causes main problems for seniors with the construction and trying to get across to our own parking lot. Then to top it off, the great task force on seniors appointed a person who was fired from his last task force on the park, with Park and Rec, because he never showed up. And now he is now going to be the head of the task force on seniors and aging. This proves that this body has no care for seniors or compassion. Oh, we have compassion, yet you're making seniors park across 4 lanes of traffic and 2 sets of railroad tracks. Thank you, City of Royal Oak.
Thank you, Mr. Ashley. Chief O'Donoghue, I know you had a quick discussion about the parking. Maybe you can just add your 2 cents.
Well, I believe the issue is, the way I understand it is, they allow them to park during Arts Beats and Eats in the metered parking. That's clearly metered parking.
Excuse me.
They threw us out.
Mr. Ashley?
And I do know
Please
we
give the
gave
floor to
several rides to seniors from the parking structure. We actually were getting calls to give them rides, so I don't know why, where the idea was that you could park there. I don't know where that came from. I also don't know who you spoke with at the police department. It certainly wasn't me. But I'm available, if Mr. Ashley wants to come in and see me tomorrow, and we can discuss it.
What time?
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Ashley, please.
What time, sir?
Mr. Ashley, you can call the chief's office and you can make those arrangements,
Yeah.
okay, Mr. Ashley? Thank you, Chief O'Donoghue.
1 o'clock. I'll be there.
All right, who's next? In the aisle here, yes.
John William Daller from Royal Oak Manor, and I hope I don't get into a mean thing, because I want to congratulate you for helping us so far and listening about our crossing the street for the seniors. On Saturday, he got an email saying we can't park on the street anymore, have to use the lot across the street, across Main Street, and they started ticketing, and they wouldn't void them. That was in the message. Okay, there will be construction coming up, and there will be needs for construction vehicles and so forth and so on for a 78 unit across the street. But you don't need the spots yet, and you won't need 6th and 7th and William in the future for construction, because 7th Street we were okayed from Main Street to Troy, that's 2 blocks long, and 6th Street right by the building. They probably won't be using those for construction, so I'm hoping we can fit maybe half of the people on our side of Main Street using those, because the others, they won't be used for construction ever, and any proposed thing won't happen tomorrow either. Something proposed has to go through the Planning Commission, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and some things never come to fruition. So why grab the spots right now if it's for upcoming construction? We can work together and use, possibly get half of the people on our side of Main Street on 7th from Main to Troy, and maybe on 6th by our side of the building, because any construction vehicles and humongous happenings on Williams won't spread over to those other streets, possibly for construction from the from the fire department lot across the street. I think that's what I think maybe we could work together with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Regan.
Good evening. My name's Tom Regan. I live at 3126 Glenview, and I'm also chair of the Royal Oak Democratic Club, which is, I'm here in that capacity this evening. Wanted to invite all of you and the entire community to attend our meeting on Saturday. Now, usually our meetings are just about stuff that's of interest to Democrats, but this Saturday, December 1st, we've got a guest speaker that I think everybody would be interested in, Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha. And people are familiar with her because she was the hero, really, of the Flint water crisis. It's hard to imagine the reforms that have happened in Flint happening without her. She showed a lot of courage, a lot of dedication, And she's been recognized worldwide. She's a worldwide celebrity now. And you might have heard that she wrote a book, What the Eyes Don't See. And when she's coming to our meeting this Saturday, it's going to be sort of part of her book tour as well. And it's a little bit infuriating to say this because not only is she talented and smart and courageous and dedicated and now a worldwide celebrity, she's also a very, very good writer. And usually when people become instant celebrities, their books are ghostwritten. This book is not ghostwritten. She's just a really, really good writer. And very interesting because, of course, Dr. Mona was raised in Royal Oak, a graduate of Kimball High School, active even locally here on environmental matters. So we'd like to just invite the whole community, even if you're not a Democrat, if you'd like to see Dr. Mona, you're welcome to come to our meeting this Saturday, December 1st. We meet at the Mahaney Meininger Senior Center at 3500 Morace, Saturday, December 1st at 10 a.m. And if you've already bought a copy of the book and you'd just like it autographed, she'll be doing autographs, so you can bring your book there and she'll autograph it from you. And if you haven't bought a copy of the book yet, you can buy one there at the meeting. Fascinating book, a lot of interesting stories. Her uncle was a fighter in the Abraham Lincoln Brigade in the Spanish Civil War. Just a really interesting family history and, of course, filled with stories about Royal Oak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Supposed to give my address, right? 606.
Name and address.
Huh?
Name and address, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
My name is Constance Peel, and I live at 606 Main Street. And I can't figure out of all you people, you look so nice and so kind, that you would do this to us, that you wouldn't stop and think, oh, is it fun? Is it fun? Are they having fun? No, 1 minute it's okay, and the next minute it's not okay. Hey, old people don't move too fast. Really. So please, give it some human treatment here.
Thank you, Ms. Peel. Who's next? Yes, sir, from the front.
Tim Luke, 305 Mount Vernon. I'd like to take the time to extend an open invitation to Royal Oakers to join ROAR, Royal Oakers for Accountability and Responsibility. The group is made up of like-minded citizens that are unhappy with the current direction the City Commission is taking and has been taking Royal Oak. The group's current success was to help defeat the two poorly contrived millages proposed by City Commission. The next project for the group is to actively pursue alternatives to save the farmers market before irreversible damage is done. ROAR is a nonpartisan group that extends an open invitation to all Royal Oakers. We have retired firemen, retired police officers, ex-city commissioners, Sierra Club members, a large contingent of concerned citizens, and I'm to understand we even have a moron in the midst of our do-gooders. Please join us to reach out to us at ro4ar.com. We are accepting donations and all volunteer hours you're willing to provide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luke. Who's next? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Martha Wright. I live at 606 Williams at the Royal Oak Manor. And I don't care to be redundant, so I will just say that these people that live in our unit at Royal Oak Manor, they have contributed to the city and or the general areas all of their lives. And their care is being completely disregarded by everybody, it seems. So the only thing that I would suggest is that you possibly try to change your attitude towards it or your policy towards it. But I also think that it's probably not that it will do any good or may not do any good, but it's time to call Channel 7 and let them know just what's going on in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Who's next? Yes, sir, in the back.
Evening. Clark Campbell, East University, Royal Oak. Mayor, city commissioners, and administration, I want to talk about a Free Press article that was published today by Robert Allen. And I quote, "About 72% of the surface lot parking spaces surrounding the market are expected to disappear in the next several weeks. Most will be we having a problem here?
A little feedback.
Break,
We can hear
okay.
you.
Most will be restored once the estimated 18-month construction projects are completed. The parking area surrounding the market on East 11 Mile Road and South Troy Streets includes 445 spaces. 186 will be taken for construction of City Hall, 142 for the police station, leaving 127 parking spaces around the market during its construction. According to the city, once the projects are complete, 374 spaces will be available, plus 581 spaces in a parking garage set to open in June about 1 block to the west. The graphic fact-checking. The graphic supplied by the city includes a 45-space private lot south of the courthouse for 127 spaces will not be available. Only 82 spaces will remain during construction. That's 82 spaces for the farmers market for a year and a half. When construction is complete, there will be no more than 244 spaces available, not the 374 number being stated. That number includes parking dedicated to the police and courthouse only, and the private lot to the south of the courthouse as well. We will have approximately 45 spaces on the west side of the market, 135 spaces to the south and alongside the courthouse, and approximately 64 spaces on the east side if people choose to park in front of the police station. That's a total of 244 spaces, not 374. That is just over half of what we currently have now. Half. The 581-space parking deck was originally proposed as a saving grace for the loss of parking at Farmers Market. This parking solution is no longer viable. What was going to be an office building next door to the deck that was closed on Saturdays is now going to be a Henry Ford Medical Center with 300 parking permits and be open on Saturdays until 4 p.m. Between permit-only parking, medical center patients, library visitors, and shoppers at Main Street businesses, we have no idea how many spaces will be available for farmers market patrons. The City of Royal Oak and now Franco, our public relations firm, are providing false information. I have one additional question regarding the City Hall construction project, which you all seem so hell-bent on getting going. This plan jams it right up against Farmers Market, and it takes away much-needed parking. The police station is a need. The City Hall is a want. What is the rush to construct? It took a long time and cost taxpayers a lot of money to assemble the parcels around the city center. We will be living with these decisions for the next 70 years. Please think about that before you start building.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Who's next? Mr. Wolf.
Mayor.
Commissioner Dubak.
If I may, I'd just like to point out one thing. I've heard the characterization of any sort of a rush with regard to the construction of the Civic Center project, which is more than 4 years in the making. I don't know if by any stretch of the imagination that 2 years due diligence, a vote, and then 2 years of planning before groundbreaking can be construed as a rush. I think that due diligence has gone into every phase of this process, and I think that's important to make sure that's known that it's been 4 years in the making.
Appreciate the clarification. Mr. Wolf.
First, I want to point out, I know I'm addressing the commission, but I'd like the people behind me to know that when you address the city hall, you have to address the person who makes 100% of all the decisions and always gets 100% cooperation, and that is your city manager. We have no say in his running the city, how he runs the city, and yet you all approve of everything he does. Quote Mr. Johnson about the Royal Oak Manor, their problem is not our problem. Now, as long as I'm over with that, I'd want to point out that Royal Oak, the parking at, I brought up a long time ago, I brought in a drawing. Why can't you have a parking structure? I know it's already done and it's a signed deal, and frankly, I think it's done literally like organized crime because it's done it behind closed doors. Nobody had any idea how how the plans for City Hall, they were never presented here at the commission. As far as I know, they weren't even presented at the DDA. I have no, because I couldn't find it. Now, the other thing is that I brought up the suggestion for a combination parking structure and City Hall, a four-story parking structure, a 3-story, 4-story, and a 4-story City Hall that would take up a lot less space and you'd be seeing in advance, taking in advance, the fact that Royal Oak is growing. It's going to need people places for park for our library, the new park, a lot of other issues coming down the road. To just selfishly, for our city manager to just arbitrarily approve of a 2-story sprawling city center. It was outrageous on one of the most valuable pieces of property. Would Royal Oak, by the way, citizens, would you have approved of the millions of dollars given to Mr. Bolge for a outpatient clinic on a hospital? Hell no. You were voting for a Class A office structure that was supposed to draw corporations to the city, not outpatients looking to buy medical marijuana or go into rehab for alcohol and drugs and whatever else. I know there's other rehab available, and I'm not belittling Henry Ford. But I also want to point out Mr. Bolge has cut a deal with Henry Ford for them to use his company's outpatient his billing service. We don't know how much rent he's going to charge. That is a nonprofit hospital that we are going to have to look at for the next 90 years. Henry Ford's going to own the property because they're going to eventually buy it from Mr. Bolge when and if he pays the $20 million back. It's just simply outrageous. I just wonder, the way you treat the seniors at Royal Oak Manor and the way you treat the rest of us, please, I'm looking forward to see that eventually that you look at changing the charter, bringing in a strong mayor. You can do it now for next term. If you as a resident, our dear mayor, and all the rest of you who are residents, please consider giving the residents a choice of having a full-time mayor who will have a fiduciary responsibility and hire a finance manager, not a city manager,
Mr.
to
Wolf, I do
decide
need you to
what's
finish up
getting
your last
built,
thought.
when it's getting built, and to screw the seniors at Royal Oak Manor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Who's next? Yes, sir. Mr. Lytle.
Hi, David Lidl, 706 Forest. I'm here not to really address anything. I support what the city commission does. I know it's a thankless job. I'm here because my son has a civics project for Royal Oak High School, and I'm glad the superintendent is here, so maybe he'll get some extra credit for that as well. Other than that, I know the city has growing pains, and sometimes there's a short-term inconvenience for long-term growth, and I do recall a new parking deck in front of the the post office, and there's another parking deck right kitty corner. So I know parking's an issue, and the city has addressed that along the way. But other than that, I think my son's going to learn a lot today, and he's also learned that be engaged, and if you're upset, you can always vote and run. Right? We do have a check and balance. We vote the commission to hire the city manager. So that's Civics 101. So anyway, he'll learn that and he'll put it in his report. Thanks.
Mr. Leland. Welcome. Who's next? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Mrs. Bruning, and I live on 1908 Lloyd. I have Parkinson's, so my voice comes and goes. Anyway, I'm here as a concerned citizen. I don't like what's happening to Royal Oak. I've lived there over 50 years, and city has changed little by little, and everything changes some, but I don't like anything you're building in Royal Oak right now. It's too close, it's too high, it doesn't look like a nice little town anymore. And I am also very worried about the farmers market. 20 years ago, I was very involved getting that not closed because they were going to build condos there. And luckily, we were able to change that. But now I hear that you're going to build the police station so close to the farmers market. And why do you build everything so close? It's like you take everything and you go like this. It's too. Everything is not. What should I say? It's too much. Everything is like you go to Royal Oak and you get squeezed in. And I don't know one person in Royal Oak who likes what they're seeing, what's happening in Royal Oak, I must say. But back to the farmers market. I think that you should be very careful when you build next to it. And I heard somebody had said that one of you up here, that we could park across the street at the church. Well, you can't do that because I go to that church and we rent it out when we don't use it. So you can't just go over there and park nilly-willy. There's just no way. And I don't know, it's just things change, but you are doing this too fast, too much construction at one time. I mean, you can hardly get around in Royal Oak anymore. And I don't know what more to say, but this is my opinion and a lot of other people's opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I see any other hands out there? Yes, I see a hand. I see a face, but I can see a hand. Dr. Anderson? All right, I can see you now. So she has an agreement.
Good evening, Mayor Fournier and Commissioners. I'm Dr. Wallace Anderson, 404 Mount Vernon Boulevard, and I'm here to talk about farmers market parking. I was part of the Save the Farmers Market group last year because it was crystal clear to me that the destruction of the surface parking by the market will destroy the market, not the building, of course, but the actual market with vendors, especially those selling produce and plants. Vendors won't have enough customers. At the November 12th Commission meeting, I advocated at least combining police and city buildings into a single footprint that would, among other benefits, maintain much more of the original surface parking. I continue to urge this change. I learned that the City Hall will be started before the police building, but it's clear that both will be started soon, closing both large lots simultaneously for likely a couple of years. Most Royal Oak taxpayers would agree that this police station is necessary. It should be built first, as quickly as possible. Focus all resources on building that one structure at a time to speed completion and reduce residents' inconvenience. On Saturday, November 17th, I picked up at the market the Rethink Royal Oak brochure, Farmers Market Parking Plan. It indicates that, among other options, there will be free valet parking. You can see the bottom right of the sheet I prepared for you. It's highlighted in green. Above that on the sheet is a photo of the valet parking sign in the west lot indicating valets work for gratuities. I'm confident the city is paying National Valet, which pays a modest, sub-minimum wage to valets, but that's not what the sign says or means. And I can tell you that Birmingham, when Birmingham free valet parking during the downtown project last year, last spring and summer, sorry, there were no signs shaming people into tipping. The Royal Oak Valet parking scheme is disingenuous. It's not really free if tips are basically solicited. And above all, it's just plain tacky. Finally, like Tim, I encourage anyone who is also concerned about transparency and honesty to join the ongoing efforts of the nonpartisan ROAR group to bring accountability and responsibility to Royal Oak City government.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Who's next? I see a hand right here.
Just a short comment. My name is Sylvia Gleason Crombie. I grew up and was born and raised in Royal Oak. I lived here on East Maryland until they took our house for the expressway. But we were out of the house at the time, which was fine, and Royal Oak was a wonderful city. I graduated from St. Mary's in Royal Oak, and I worked for 3 lawyers in the Washington Square building, and it just really was a wonderful city to grow up. It was just the perfect city. Then I moved out, moved to Berkeley, then I moved to Troy, and I've lost 2 husbands, and now I'm back in Royal Oak at the Royal Oak Manor. And I'm sorry to say that I'm not unhappy with the Royal Oak Manor at all. It's a wonderful place and they're wonderful people. But the way the city of Royal Oak, I've been there over 3 years, and what I have seen from the city of Royal Oak to the Royal Oak Manor, I am just very discouraged. I can't believe that you people would treat seniors or anybody like that, but especially seniors who have a hard time getting around and so forth, and I'm one of them. I mean, my car is going, I come down 6th Street from Maine, and I say, "Dear Lord, please let there be a parking place. Please, I don't want to have to walk a lot. I have sciatica. It kills me all the time, but that's not your problem. It's mine." But anyway, I've been coming to the meetings for the 3 years off and on, and I really can't believe what I'm seeing, and I'm not happy with it whatsoever. If it wasn't for the manor, I would not be living in Royal Oak. Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Gleason Crombie. All right, who's next? I see a hand that popped up back there first. Yep.
Deb Campbell, East University. I'm here tonight to speak about Farmers Market. I draw from my experience as a former Farmers Market vendor, a member of the Farmers Market Transition Committee back when the city purchased the county share. After that, I served on the Farmers Market Standing Committee as a vendor rep. I am also a past member of both the Historic District Commission and the Historic District Study Committee. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the farmers market and historic preservation. Many of our farmers are descendants of the original farm families that began selling here back in the 20s. Unlike Eastern Market in Detroit, whose vendors sell shipped-in product from anywhere, the farmers at our market are certified Michigan independent farm growers. They have a limited season, crops are harvested, and they need to sell it. A couple of weeks of not selling out and carting perishable product back to the farm isn't an option. With your plan, parking at the market will dwindle from 428 spaces to under 100 spaces during the 18-month-long construction period alone. How can our farmers survive that loss? As dedicated as our farmers are in serving our community, this is their livelihood. If there's a continued drop in customers, they will have no choice but to move out and sell at farm markets in neighboring communities that have been working hard to duplicate our iconic gem. Historic designation protection of the farmers market structure, the barn alone, is a hoax. It's not the barn alone that is historically significant. It is a cultural association with a pattern of history. In this case, the agricultural use as a farm market that is significant and must be protected. Parking has been critical in supporting its use as a farmer's market for the past 93 years, and parking is always near capacity. In fact, the city created additional surface parking for the market at a cost of millions of dollars because it was needed. And now you say it's not needed, and you want to demolish it and plop a new city hall there. Unless you protect the market, this historic designation you're giving lip service to tonight is nothing more than a hollow PR gesture meant to shut us up. When all the dust settles, we'll be left with an empty barn that will no longer be able to function as a farmer's market. This body needs to halt the development on the farmer's market site, declaring an emergency moratorium as prescribed by the local Historic Districts Act 169. The Historic District Study Committee must have time to review the proposed district in its entirety, including the surrounding environs and parking, prepare the report, and submit it to the state for approval. The city must use this moratorium period to exercise proper due diligence, which has yet to happen, to perform parking analysis and conduct an impact study to have any real knowledge of what the short and long-term ramifications of this development will have on our farmers market survival. And finally, please reconsider to save our farmers market. Why not preserve and rehabilitate this vintage city hall structure we are meeting in here tonight? Any rehabilitation costs or costs of redrawing architectural plans would most certainly be less costly than demolishing the $4 million revenue-generating parking lot for a new city hall and the loss of our farmers market. When it's gone, it's gone.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Who's next? I see a hand in the back.
Kathleen Klein, 412 Park Ave, Royal Oak. I'll try to pay attention to the clock, I forget. I'm going to hand out maps. I appreciate and respect everything that Deb Campbell just reiterated or spoke about with the farmers market. These are maps of Eastern Market and the parking that they provide for the patrons that visit the market. You'll see it's incredibly substantial and has gotten better as years have gone on, whereas we are in a reverse mode where we're about to make it worse. I'll hand these out when I'm done. Another thing I wanted to speak with you about is something that came across to me just today from SEMCOG, and this is important not only for each of you, but for residents who may be watching, which, by the way, the reason that you always see a senior group here is because, thank God, they have the time to follow city government and be engaged and do the research needed to be at these meetings, because young people and families are just trying to live their lives. They're just trying to bring home paychecks, take care of their family, go to sporting events. It's a full-time job lately to follow what's going on in this city, and that's really kind of sad and a shame. But we do need to appreciate and respect our seniors for doing the homework that they do. The thing I wanted to bring to attention is Senate Bill 1188-1194. I don't know if you've heard of that today. SEMCOG sent this out. It's due to pass in lame duck, and it's about to happen very quickly if we're not all alert. And what this will do is similar to what the zoning notification distance is all about, or the development notification. The state says it only has to be 300 feet. Well, isn't that just wonderful? And so we never have to do anything more than 300 feet, even if it would be appropriate to notify a greater distance, maybe 500 feet or 1,000 feet, depending upon the development. This would have the same impact, where we would no longer, as a community, be able to dictate green infrastructure developments for stormwater management of development coming into this community. And it would be a really nice excuse to just be able to say, well, we're just doing what the state says we have to do. So why would the state be intervening in our community when we've all experienced flooding in this community, and that stormwater management is critical right now to managing pavement and stormwater, where any of us that are at the end of a watershed suffer the brunt of it in a rain event from those that live in the suburbs. So please pay attention to that. It'll be interesting to see how our state representative, Mr. Ellison, votes on this. There's a couple quick things too. The walk sign at the corner of Main and 11 has been smacked out of order, so as you're trying to cross that intersection, you can't see it. I don't know whose job it is to straighten it. And we also need to pay attention to the wayfaring signage. It's awfully low. If you are at the corner of 11 and Main, you're going to see where someone of any significant height could hit their head on that, and it's directly over the sidewalk. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Klein.
Ms. Klein.
Oh, good, so you saw it. So I don't need to email it to you, Senate Bill 1188?
We're all over it.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Linda Tumala.
I live at 3021 Helen Court. I'm speaking to the agenda item 7, the request by the Historic District Study Committee to study the Royal Oak Farmers Market, and item 9, the award of the City Hall trade contract work. It is exciting to see the City Commission requesting the Historic District Study Committee to conduct a study of the Royal Oak Farmers Market to pursue historic designation for the building. This building and the market have been prominent fixtures and part of the culture of our community for many years. It serves Royal Oak and many surrounding communities, with people coming from as far away as Shelby Township. Saturday, I visited with a couple at the market who are from Shelby. They have physical disabilities that make walking distances difficult. They come for the market and the pleasure of walking around, visiting the many different vendors. The close parking makes it possible for them to enjoy their visits. Yes, we need the building to continue this unique market, but we also need convenient, close-in, available parking. This parking is necessary for those unable to carry products distances, but also for those that shop for the many products requiring several trips back and forth to their cars. How unfortunate the city did not try some of the helping services before they became necessary to see how people would use them and felt about them. Also, doing a cost versus use study of these services would have been helpful. I remind folks that these are not free. They are being paid for with our taxes. So I wonder what service is going to be short in their budget, in the city budget, to provide the money for these extras. There's only so much money coming in. What about money for the upkeep of the parks this past summer? Not to be found, but now we have money for these services. Ask the farmers. They have noticed a drop in business. These are photos from 11 o'clock this past Saturday. Several city commissioners have commented on Facebook that all is fine, that there's plenty of parking. Well, something does not compute. If the farmers have not been getting customers, I chatted with the vendors on Saturday. They are concerned. They've been left out of the loop. There's no study as to the impact of the construction of the police station, which, yes, we need now, and a new city hall, which could wait a year, during which time an impact study could be done. I'm not a fan of studies. However, in this case, there is a great deal riding on this situation. Please stop the city hall construction until the facts are known as to the impact on the farmers market. The market is not just the historic building, which indeed is important, but it is also the farmers and vendors that make the market what it is. They have to go where they can sell their products to make a living. No parking, no customers, no vendors, no market. I'm confident that is not what you want to have happen. Please table the construction contracts until some of the parking problems are resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tumala. Who else wishes to speak tonight?
I'm sorry, you need a lot of applause for that.
Going twice. All right, we'll bring the meeting back up to this side of the table, which brings us to item number 5, which is the approval of the agenda. Commissioner Dubuck.
Thank you, Mayor. It was brought up at public comment tonight, but we do have, when this issue was brought to my attention earlier today, I drafted a resolution regarding Senate Bill 1188, which would preempt local cities, local municipalities' ability to protect trees by local ordinance. So I would like to add an agenda item to discuss this resolution and hopefully send it on to our state legislators.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Dubuck. Is there support? Second by Commissioner Douglas. All right. Commissioner Dubuck.
I'll move for approval of the agenda as changed.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Dubuck. We have a second by Commissioner Lavasser. So we have an agenda with the...
That was a question.
Was that a question?
It's more of a question.
Well, hold on, let's wait till we get the motion on the table.
Go ahead.
Okay, second by Commissioner Macy for the agenda.
Thank you.
So we have a modified agenda, and now we have the agenda that's up for, the modified agenda is now up for consideration. Commissioner Lavasser.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure procedurally, because there's an additional matter that I'd like to add here, and whether it's appropriate to vote on this first and then add, or whether I should be bringing another motion at this time.
I think you could probably just do an amendment to modify the motion, or to, I'm sorry, to modify the motion of the agenda, so you can add something, if you want to make a motion.
Do that at this time then?
Yeah.
All right. I would like to add one additional matter, and that would be a discussion of parking around Royal Oak Manor.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner
I'll second
Lavasser.
that.
We have a second by Commissioner Gibbs. Discussion. Okay, with now I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion passes.
That was on the
That's on the
amended.
amendment.
That's on the amendment. Yeah. There's a motion, an amended motion that passed. So now we have an agenda that has,
That motion's already on the table.
It's already on the table.
motion's already on the table, but the agenda that's been modified twice is now on the table. Right. So now we have an agenda that has the discussion on parking, which will be the last item, and before that, as item number 13, we will have a discussion on the resolution in opposition to Senate Bill 1188. Does everyone understand the agenda? Everyone understand the motion that's on the table? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull anything off the consent agenda? Does anyone wish to move the consent agenda? Commissioner Perush.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
We have a motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Douglas. Discussion? With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. This brings us to item number 7, the authorization to request the Historic District Study Committee to conduct a study of the Royal Oak Farmers Market. And if I can get this working. Mr. Chisholm.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commission. So during the November 14th City Strategic Planning meeting, the commission had directed staff to investigate the process of requesting a study for historic designation for the farmers market. Process is pretty straightforward and simple. The city is just going to need to authorize someone to attend the next regularly scheduled meeting and request the committee study. Ultimately, the city commission will approve or deny the designation once a report is received from the Historic District Study Commission.
Questions for Mr. Chisholm? Commissioner Dubak.
So the scope of the study would be for the structure itself as we're directing here, and would they then let us know if any of the particular uses or modifications need to be changed? Was that all part of the study?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay. And then going forward, should we give it the designation, would mean any modifications to the market would have to restore it to original condition. We could not change it. Wouldn't that be right if they receive this designation?
I don't think so. I think it basically means that such modifications would have to come back to the Historic District Commission for review and approval, but that they could be approved.
Okay. So basically, this study is just going to talk about whether or not the building itself meets the criteria to be designated as a historical site.
Yes.
Correct.
Commissioner Gibbs.
And I presume that means the sidewalks around, not just the four walls of the building, but that means the small area of sidewalks up to the parking lots on three sides of it?
I believe it.
The porches, yeah, I mean, that's a better way of saying it.
I believe it would.
That's what I believe too.
They're all under the same roof.
Not the ones on the south side. But that's already going to be taken up. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Dubak.
I'm not expert in it, but I think it would depend on whether or not those were a part of the original structure. Wouldn't that be the case? I'm not an expert in historical designation by any means.
I'm not either, and I was under the impression that Ruth would be here this evening, and she might still, oh, she is here. Well, not Ruth, but you're here. Maybe we can ask some people from we have some people, members of the Historic District Committee. Thank you, guys, for raising your hand.
Welcome.
Thanks. I'm Rob Duchesne, 4302 Auburn. Tamis.
Tamis Donaldson, 137 East Bloomfield. We're both on the Historic District Study Committee.
So you can walk us through kind of what that process would look like, what the considerations are, maybe what some of the hurdles we might face are, kind of.
Well, you've raised some interesting legal questions, and I'm not prepared to address those. But basically, the state has criterion for historic designation. Our attempt is to see if the property in question meets those guidelines. There's usually a standard of over 50% of the property is considered designated historic, and generally it's involved with the exterior. Now, again, the legal question about the boundaries, the porches and such, that's territory I'm not prepared really to address. This is a pretty unique circumstances, but we'll all be learning together. Ruth couldn't be here. We just wanted to be here to give you some idea of the general process. I did want to take a moment to commend Commissioner Gibbs. She's been very helpful. She comes to the meetings, and I'm sure she'll be very good at keeping you abreast of what's happening as we go forward. I guess what we're here tonight is to get your blessing to proceed. I sort of feel a little trepidation because I feel like I'm sailing into stormy waters, but you know, you do that every week, so I can handle it.
Any other questions? Commissioner Dubug.
Yeah, just curious, what is the general turnaround time for this kind of study? Does it just depend on the case? You wouldn't really be able to spitball that now, or?
Depends. I mean, I think there's a lot of literature. I don't think it's going to be hard at all establishing it as designation. I think it's been in that site since the 1920s. I don't know. I haven't started the research, but I feel confident. I've seen photos of Model Ts on that site on precisely that site. When the structure went up, I'll be able to tell you in the future. Turnaround time, 6 months.
No way.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected.
We are a membership of all volunteers. And even though we're usually ambitious, it seems like it usually takes us about a year.
Okay, good.
I do think there's a wealth of literature. I mean, I think it will meet the test way over 50% of being historically significant. With your assistance, I think that, I don't want to say it's slam dunk, but I think it looks good.
Good.
Okay. Well, thank you for your service on that committee, and please, keep Commissioner Gibbs apprised of anything that you need from this body as you pursue that. I think that we're willing to provide.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Ruth,
Commissioner Gibbs?
just to add, Ruth and I had a conversation on the phone about a week and a half ago, and she said that there is a fair amount of information at the historical museum.
Yeah.
Too many history things here. So she is hesitant to say that it won't take as long as some of the other, as for houses or other properties, because there's already, like he said, a wealth of knowledge established. They still have to double check everything and go through all the numbers and the details, but I don't know, I feel pretty confident that it won't take a year.
Yeah,
And I think they're all very excited to work on this project too.
I mean, I haven't seen photos or any blueprints or anything of the original structure, but from the photos I have seen, it seems like it's fairly close to the original. So I feel confident.
Okay. Good. All right, anything else? Oh, Commissioner Prush.
The only thing that I would add is, having gone through the historic district designation for other properties in the city, a lot of times what has taken the vast amount of time is the research that had to be done for the individual properties which have been held in private hands for so many years. And it's a question of going back through property owner records and city building department records and so on and so forth to see what changes were made and when and by whom. And that's the difficult part. In this case, where this building has been held in government hands for almost its entire life, it's
That's
not,
right.
if not its entire life,
You
you've
see,
got.
private residence, usually you need some connection to a historic figure.
Right.
In either Royal Oak or Michigan history.
Mhm.
But as you point out, that really won't be the case. I mean, I end up doing as much genealogy into the family histories of these houses as much as anything else, and that won't, I don't think, be necessary here.
I think you're right. Plus, you've got all the government records, right, either through Oakland County, which was the owner for quite some time, and now the city of Royal Oak. When it's a private house, it's much more difficult. So I think your
is.
task will be easier with this facility than it has been in the past with some privately owned house. I think of a
The Royal Oak, as you can tell from tonight, loves its farmer's market, and I hope that doesn't become the subject of too much controversy. But we'll see. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming up and helping answer some of our questions, and we'll see where this vote goes. Commissioner Dubak.
Anyway, so yeah, I was pleased to bring forward this motion at our previous meeting. I think it's totally appropriate to ask this question for some reason. In my 7 years now at the table, long before even the Civic Center project, the specter of rumors about the fate of the farmers market persist. In spite of this commission, previous commissions decades ago, dedicating their themselves to the perseverance of the market, these rumors persist. So I think that this is appropriate in that I think the site is probably worthy, but that can also put to rest the city's commitment or any potential threats to the market itself or anyone's intentions on that site that we intend for that building to stand for generations to come. So with that, I'll move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Dubak, second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion? Anything to add to what Commissioner Dubak said? Commissioner Lavasser.
I'm in favor of the motion here, but I think we're losing sight of something that's very important here, and there's a lot of people who are concerned because of the changes in the parking around the market here. And we can give it any designation we want, but if we're depriving the market of the lifeblood that helps it thrive, I don't know that simply giving a designation is going to be sufficient here. I'll support the motion, but I think it's just it's just a little bit of window dressing. It's not getting to the heart of the issue.
Commissioner Dubak.
Yeah, I think the fear-mongering around
Ladies and gentlemen,
the
remind you of the
fear-mongering
rules.
and around the parking issue is unjustified. And so we're talking about the southernmost spaces here where the city hall is going to sit. Currently, that last row of 30 spaces is about 400 feet from the entrance of the market. The entrance to the new deck is 400 feet. That's the same distance. So the idea that there's some extreme distance people are going to have to navigate is just not fair. There's a lack of recognition that right now city staff park in that lot, police park in that lot, court staff park in that lot, and we're not going to have them there. So that the reason we're counting the private lots that are going to be behind the police station and by the courthouse is because those spots are all now freed up to be open on market days. So I think there's a reasonable dialogue to be had here about what's the right amount of parking, but I think that the situation is being made to be more dire than it is when we have this is a fixable problem to the extent there is a problem. And the city's going out of its way to make sure that during construction, which is the pinch point, that there are options for folks at the market.
Thank you, Mr. Dubak. Any other discussion? Yeah, I'll just add, we talked about this at our strategic planning session. I think we all thought it was a good idea. It is significant to get a building historically designated. It's going to take some work from the committee to do it. And we appreciate your efforts and we applaud your efforts and we're grateful for your efforts on everything that you do, especially this project. And so it will have importance for generations to come because 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, some other commission may want to decide to do something with that building, sell it for condos. Well, at least if we get it historically designated, that will never be the case. So this is really important. And I think, we all appreciate the farmers market here. We go to it, we support it, and with some of the new stuff that's taking place there, hopefully it will be a positive experience for years to come. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. This brings us to item number 8, request to implement quick zone parking pilot program.
I'm going to take this one, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
Mr. Johnson.
Ms. Davis could not be here tonight. This grew out of a suggestion that actually came from the mayor. We did send a representative to present it to the Downtown Development Authority Infrastructure Committee, which supported it. Their support was based on it being a 15-minute, actually having 5 15-minute quick zone parking spaces along Main Street between 11 and 4th. The logic behind this is that the types of restaurants, there's an awful lot of fast casual that do a significant takeout business, that people coming in just to find a parking space to just run in and pick something up and leave. Also with Uber and Lyft and Grubhub and DoorDash, all providing food delivery as well, that we think the situation is different than it was 10 years ago when we eliminated these type of spaces. We used to have them and got rid of them. One thing that I do want to mention, it isn't in the time limit is not in the suggested resolution. The police department feels very strongly that that should be 30 minutes, not 15. That 15 is not enough time for most people to get in and out of a lot of the fast casual restaurants. And Judy would very much concur because she was giving examples, particularly with Freshie, as to how long it actually takes to get in and get out. That she doesn't think you can do it in 15. And the last thing we want to do is create something like this and end up issuing tickets. And you can't expect that the PEAs are going to know when somebody's going to be back. The PEAs aren't making judgments about when to issue tickets. If they see a flashing red light on a meter, they're going to issue a ticket. So I would suggest the resolution. The resolution does not have a time in it. I think it would be our intention to start that out as a 30-minute zone rather than a 15.
Questions for Mr. Johnson? Mr. Macy.
How did you pick these spots?
For consistency, they'll be basically at the same location on each block. And I'm not sure that we've actually got the specific spots picked yet, but they'll either be the northernmost or southernmost location on each block.
They're also all single metered spots, so they're easy to designate, so there's only 1 meter there.
Also, the intent, one other thing that was a problem the last time is that we used a color coding system of painting the meter poles to indicate how long the meter time was. The problem is nobody knew what that meant. And the last thing you want to have somebody do is pull into a parking space, get out of their car, go over to the meter to put money in it, and discover that it's a 15 or 30-minute meter and they need to be there longer. So we're planning on trying to mark these very well, including using pavement marking. I think you may have seen around town where we've used they're actually stickers, but they really almost look like paint on the sidewalks. So
Walking wheels?
now, it may be too late in the year to do that right now, too cold, but that would be the intention, that they would be marked in that manner, as well as a sign on the meter post.
Mr. Lavasser.
I'm wondering with regard to the east side of Main Street, closer to 11 Mile, we basically seem to have 2 per block, but we only have 1 there. And my understanding is there's just no parking right there on Main Street on the east side. Whether we anticipate after the parking structure is up that there might be some location, if this program is successful, where we would have a quick park location for that side of the street as well, if there's some location that might work in that instance.
We can certainly look at that.
Commissioner Douglas.
I just want to congratulate the staff, and Mayor, if this was your suggestion, thank you as well. as Royal Oak has changed, there are parking considerations or parking solutions that we know in advance we're going to need to implement. The addition of new metered parking on 3rd Street south of the Farmers Market is one longer planned thing. But we also need to be entrepreneurial and to respond to circumstances as they come up. If there's no problem, you don't need to do anything about it. But if you spot a problem, as we've heard here, the kind of transition on Main Street into more fast, casual, quick service establishments, we're moving entrepreneurially and lost the word, entrepreneurially to solve a problem and come up with a solution that can meet that contemporary problem. So I'm happy to support this motion. I think we're doing the right thing and the smart thing in this case. Agile, that's the word I was looking for.
Any other discussion?
And I'll
Make a
move
motion.
the motion.
We have a motion by
The resolution.
Commissioner Douglas. Is there a support? Support by Commissioner Macy. Additional discussion? I'll just add, Judy Davids worked really hard on this. She coordinated with a number of departments within the city. We have, Judy in particular has been working with the businesses. We have that email, Rethink Royal Oak at romy.gov. And, you can't anticipate every singular issue that's going to arise out of construction, but when you're made aware of it, you try to deal with it, you address it, whether it's a single dumpster placement or a idea for a new handicap parking spot. And I really applaud her efforts. This really was the genesis of she and I also having conversations with a number of stakeholders in this area and understanding that, takeout is a big part of their business, and that especially during the day, the daytime traffic. And so we devised this idea. Phase 2, I hope, might be, maybe alluding to it a little bit, that even in our parking garage in front of the post office, we can do some of this. We have to figure out some of the logistics and things like that, operationally, how you would do it, but it would allow for, even on the first floor of our parking garages, to have, a number of quick parking spots. Enforcement's a little bit more challenging, but I'm confident we have some really smart people on city staff that can figure that out. And once we get our feedback and understanding and learnings from this, that will inform the best way to do it maybe in some of our garages as well. So it's a great idea, and there's many different types of customers that come to downtown. I just had a wonderful lunch with a very pleasant woman about parking for the disabled and learning that there, and I know Commissioner DuBuck actually brings a lot of experience with this, given his background, but we think about disabled parking, there's a lot of different bandwidths, right? And so I think the more we can understand and continue to learn and try things to fit the needs of everyone visiting our downtown, we'll be successful, as we have been. So, all right, if there's no other discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. This brings us to item number 9, the second award of City Hall trade contract work.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Commission. On October 22nd, you actually awarded the first trade contract package for the new City Hall. This would be the second, and it comprises 9 separate packages. 7 of those I'll read right now. These recommendations are based on the lowest qualified bid for the scope of work. Those would be concrete, roofing, metal panel, carpentry, floor finishes, ceramic, hard tile, and painting. There are 2 award recommendations that are being made for firms that provided the second lowest bids for the scope of work. That would be glazing and HVAC. And in both situations, we're recommending a union contractor over a non-union contractor. We're certainly taking into account the commission had stated a preference for both union labor and making sure that prevailing wage were paid on this job. We're interpreting that as Davis-Bacon right now. Obviously, prevailing wage has been repealed by the Michigan legislature. The cost that we would incur to audit the non-union firms, we believe would supersede the difference in the bids of the scope of work. So for that reason, we're recommending R.W. Mead for HVAC and Modern Mirror for glazing. I do have Chris Becker from Plant Moran Cressa, our owner's rep, who can also give more detail about the individual bids, should you so require.
Any questions for Mr. Fenton? Commissioner Lavasser.
With regard to the 2 contracts where you're recommending the second lowest bid, did all of the bidders agree to prevailing wage, including the ones that were the lowest?
No, the union ones were obviously responding under Davis-Bacon. We would have to actually audit them. It was not a requirement for them to actually submit to prevailing wage because that no longer is the law of the land here.
Okay, but how was, when we sought bids, I mean, you've
Opened it up to
disregarded
everybody.
these bidders here, and they're the lowest bidders. So, I guess, how did you determine whether or not they were qualified to place bids here, and whether they met the criteria that the commission had made specifically with regard to prevailing wage?
They actually submitted bids, they submitted their bids under the mitten, where we went out and publicly bidded. So they submitted bids based on those publicly requested bids that we use that the city requires. We decided to go and really going with the contractors. We have selected two very good contractors, people I personally worked with before, but the criteria is we knew we wanted to get someone that was going to pay the prevailing wage, someone that met some of the criteria. Due to the state's legislation of rejecting the previous prevailing wage laws, we utilized in looking to go with Davis-Bacon wages where we could. And we feel we have the better contractors by going with the people that Colasani recommended, Plant Moran Cressa recommended the city of Royal Oak.
Okay, besides the union versus non-union aspect of the labor, was there anything that disqualified the lowest bidders?
We also look at, while we don't require them to give us performance and payment bonds, because we have the CM provide a performance and payment bond that covers the entire contract amount, we do look at performance and payment bonds, and their price for bonds are typically just about twice as much as the union contractor on what we had in the bids. I don't have a real good background. We didn't over-research, but what we did look at is the contractors that we're recommending in their background, in their recommendations, and their references.
No.
Okay, now there's approximately a $33,000 difference in the bids between the lowest bidders and the ones that are being recommended. That seems like a lot to me to do an audit of, and I presume it's an audit of the wages that are being paid to
Yes.
the people. That seems like an incredible amount. It just seems to me that is something that could be done much less than $33,000. That's my sense here. I'd be shocked if it would come anywhere close to $33,000, or that it should come anywhere close. But the thing is, if you're not mandating a certain level of wages, what is there to audit?
We would be going back against what the Davis-Bacon wages are. We also did put out the information what the previous prevailing wages are, but that's no longer an enforceable wage.
Okay. Now, with regard to state law, have we vetted whether this would violate state law with regard to showing preference or prejudice toward one firm or the next?
It doesn't violate state law because the city of Royal Oak has the option to choose which contractors you want to work with.
Okay, but can we do that based upon the criteria of union versus non-union?
I really have to go back to your purchasing requirements, which really allow you to choose the contractors you want to award to. And that's one of the reasons we based our recommendation. The bid package also had language in it that allows the city of Royal Oak to choose the contractors that you prefer to work with.
Okay, but that would be the contracts, that wouldn't be state law, so we don't have legal opinion on this.
I don't think Mr. Becker's a lawyer, and I think that's an unfair question to present to him at this time.
I got to admit that I am not.
I'm simply asking if we've vetted this through legal counsel yet.
I can't say that. I've talked to Mr. Gillum about it.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Becker. Thank you, Mr. Fenton.
Wait.
Oh, Commissioner Pruge.
You said that this is the second bid package for this trade contract work. Can you remind us again where we are in terms of the overall contracts for the City Hall project? It looks to a person who's not been following this on a day-to-day basis that since construction hasn't started, therefore nothing has started. And so if we really wanted to, we could move the City Hall someplace else or put it on top of the police station. But can you remind us where we started in terms of issuing contracts for the City Hall project and how far down the road we already are?
Well, the first contracts were awarded on October 22nd of this year for the actual construction. The reason that there hasn't been any work on site is because we're actually in the second review process with the building department. We're pulling permits for this project just as anyone else would pull a permit for a project in Royal Oak. There were revisions to the first submittal. We're hoping to have the second submittal complete within the next 7 to 10 days, and then you'll start seeing actual site work. The barriers have been brought on anticipating that that work is going to begin soon. The work that would be done, as I had said, was awarded about a month ago.
So we are actually already under contract for this building?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Wow. Commissioner Douglas.
I'll move approval of the resolutions for these awards.
A motion by Commissioner Douglas. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Dubak. Discussion. Commissioner Lavasser.
There's no secret that I'm not a fan of this project, and I think it's ill-advised. And for that reason alone, I wouldn't be inclined to support this. There's been a lot of discussion lately about trying to put together a different footprint for the police station, City Hall, that wouldn't take up as much surface parking as is presently planned. We may be late in the fourth quarter here, but the game isn't over here, and I do believe it would be appropriate for us to reassess the situation in that respect, because I do believe that we're making the wrong decision here for the future of the city in that respect. But that said, if we're going to move forward with this project, I do believe we owe it to the taxpayers to look to keep the costs down. And there's $33,000 here in additional costs that we don't have to have. And the reason that we're choosing some firms over others, it wasn't clear to me whether or not the lowest bidders were offering prevailing wage or not. That was a little fuzzy for me in the presentation here, but I'm not at all certain that we as a body can basically say we're going to choose these two firms because they happen to be represented by unions as opposed to other firms that are otherwise qualified, maybe offering prevailing wage, and simply don't have that situation. I think at a minimum, it should be referred to council to advise us whether we can make that decision. But really our choice should be looking out for the taxpayers, keeping the costs down for the taxpayers in this town. And that's $33,000 that could go into parks, $33,000 that could go into helping maintain the streets during snow emergencies. A lot of different things that we could do with that money, and it just adds up when you spend $33,000 here, $70,000 there. $10,000 here, it adds up to a lot of money that could be better used to serve the residents of our city.
Commissioner Macy.
So the city of Royal Oak does have the ability and the right, which we do, which we did already, to state our own theory for who we're going to hire to do work on our city. And what we've stated here is that prevailing wage is important to us. We pay our city employees so that they can live a good life, and we should be paying the people who are building the buildings that we're going to do that work in and that they're going to do that work in to live a good life as well. And my understanding was, maybe I'm incorrect, was that the lowest bids did not have prevailing wage here. And I think that we need to be supporting that as a city. But in addition, we know if there are union workers that they are trained, they are bonded, they know what they're doing, and we aren't going to have to do it again. So we could be saving some money by getting the union work to do it right up front and not have to worry that the people that we're having built these buildings that we want to live for 7 years, as was said earlier today, were just pulled off the street because they're looking for a construction job on Wednesday. So I'm very happy to support this today, and I look forward to seeing this go up, first time done right.
Mr. Dubak.
Absolutely, I support that 100%, and I think in addition to us having committed to the fact that this is going to be a job built by high-quality, high-trained, skilled laborers that are going to provide the kind of craftsmanship that we think our residents deserve. My understanding is that from staff on top of that, this is a financial calculation whereby the margins between the lowest and the second lowest bid were so minimal that staff believes that the savings from choosing the lowest non-union proposals would be eliminated by the cost the city would incur in bringing another firm on board to audit the payrolls to ensure the contractor's compliance with prevailing wage. So there is a financial consideration there too. So I think it's a win on both fronts. I think staff's done their due diligence. I think this is the right way to go.
Mr. Bruce.
The other thing that's important to point out is the suggestion that this can be stopped and we can relook at the location of these various buildings that are within the project. Ignores the fact that 3 years ago when this project first started, we did exactly that. And it was not just a, oh, where do we think this all should go? It was a very detailed, specific, scientific, thought out, vetted thoroughly demonstration that this is the appropriate location for each one of these buildings. And we did consider the most currently talked about alternative, which is plunking like a Lego block of the City Hall on top of the police station as a way of freeing up 70 parking spaces. That combining the building was an option that was considered and significantly rejected by just about everybody that was involved, not only the construction people, but most of all by the police department. And I hate to put either the city manager or the police chief on the spot tonight, and if they don't want to mention or talk about, well, the police chief is getting up.
Feel free, it'll be the police chief.
Why combining those buildings is not a very good idea. So perhaps he could refresh our memories as to why we rejected that idea a long time ago.
I would point out that this has been a long process, and we, like you said, we went over this 3 years ago. We had the town hall, we had the Facebook Live, and we went into great detail on exactly what went into the police building. And operational efficiency was the #1 goal, and everything in that building is designed towards that end. And one of the things we pointed out at the time is everything that's on the first floor has to be on the first floor, and we gained tremendous operational efficiencies. Being next to court and having a bridge means that aspect alone of where we're located will save 7 hours of, right now I have 7 hours a day on court-related details. That'll go to 0 once the new building's built. And I can go into all the operational efficiencies we're gaining, but once you stack them, you're gonna lose that. And what would happen to City Hall, maybe Don would be better to explain that, but I can give you one example is every single day when I walk into City Hall, there is a line of young mothers getting the birth certificates. And then those would be the first people that would have to go up the 3 flights of stairs with their babies and young kids. They're there every single day outside the city clerk's office. But that was the goal, and that was our focus. If we're not going to gain the operational efficiencies, then you really question why, is the building worth it? So.
Thank you, Chief Donahue. And I can tell you I was part of the committee as well, spending countless hours looking and evaluating at different locations as well. We even looked at where we're at on the 3rd Street parking lot. We looked at a private lot. We had an architect see if we could squeeze City Hall and meet all the needs of the community and keep it on task with budget. And we went through, even in the beginning, we looked at combining it as a condo with the office building. We soon found out that was going to be much more challenging legally than we had originally thought. So we went through countless iterations, and I think it's an unfair suggestion to say that, this is we're not going to support the development of a new city hall and desperately needed police station because of an idea that was hashed out a while ago with many different experts from Plant Moran Cressa to city staff to the police department to those who run City Hall. Commissioner Dubak.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I just want to make sure to emphasize that point I had mentioned earlier, that the suggestion this is in any way rushed or not thought out after 2 years of discussion and deliberation in town halls and input. And there was debate then, and these concerns were raised then. For much of that time, you and I were not seeing eye to eye on several components of this proposal. But at the end of the day, 2 years ago, the sitting commission at that time voted 7-0 to move forward with this plan, having vetted a wide variety of other possibilities. Now, 2 years later, we're ready to break ground, having gone through further due diligence to make sure we're getting the buildings right. And no new information has come to light that would make me second guess that decision, much less a 7-0 decision of the commission. I think staff is working in good faith on the direction that they were given 2 years ago. We've made a promise to the community, and I intend to see it through, and I think this is a proper step forward.
All right, any other discussion? I'll just add one more germane to the actual vote itself. I'd like to thank staff. I'd like to thank Plant Mayor Cressa, Mr. Becker, his team. I think you gave us at least solid 4 reasons here why we should move forward with these recommendations. We talked about prevailing wage, the importance of that. Commissioner Macy brought that up. We talked about, the craftsmanship and quality and certification and that come with prevailing wages in union houses, especially in a market today where labor is really, really thin. It's going to be a challenge anyways to find high-quality firms and find people that aren't cutting corners with labor. Talked about the recommendations and referrals of the firms that are being recommended here. We also talked about the cost of bonding and some of those issues as well. So for a small fraction of the contract size, we avoid many different headaches down the road. We're going to employ the very best people to build the very best buildings in the very best possible way. So I will be supporting this motion, and I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the motion passes. All right, that brings us to item number 10, approval of Michigan Indigent Defense Commission funding agreement. Indigent, I can never say that word properly. Mr. Griswold.
All right.
Welcome back.
Thank you. In compliance with the Michigan Indigent Defense Act, the city of Royal Oak submitted a plan with a cost analysis to the MIDC in November 2017 that demonstrated how the city would meet the standards established by the MIDC to provide indigent defense at the 44th District Court. Our plan was formally approved on April 20th, 2018, as well as the cost analysis. And we've been waiting over the last 6 months or so to implement the program because we're waiting for funding decisions between the governor and state legislature as they ironed out their budget. The state did fully fund the MIDC for this fiscal year, and we have now received the grant agreement. And over this fiscal year, we are to receive $368,006.
I'm just going to end on that zinger.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Crism? Commissioner Perush.
I'll move approval of this motion.
A motion by Commissioner Perush, second by Commissioner Dubak. Discussion on this one. Commissioner Lavasser.
Just to be clear, the program is 100% funded by the grant money?
We are responsible to continue to fund indigent defense at the rate we did for the 3 fiscal years prior to 2013. So it works out, our share is approximately $20,000 a year.
Okay.
But it's not anything additional.
All right, so it's a status quo situation in that respect?
Yes.
Commissioner Macy.
So I'd like to say the state of indigent defense in Michigan has been not great for many years, and I'm glad that we're making some improvements at the state level and that we're filtering it down to the local level and that they made the correct decision to fund it like they said they were going to.
Thank you, Commissioner Macy. Any other discussion? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. This brings us to item number 11, approval of interlocal government agreement for bike share installation. Mr. Krazan, you are next again.
Yep. So back for fiscal year 17-18, the city commission had set a goal to explore the development of bike share within the city. The result of the exploration actually led to a project with our surrounding cities, Ferndale, Oak Park, Berkeley, and Huntington Woods, into looking at creating a regional bike share. In February, we submitted a letter of support for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant, which was eventually funded. The total amount of this program is just shy of $500,000 across the cities. The cities are responsible for a 20% match in the purchase of the bicycles to place at the installed stations. For us, the total installation cost is estimated at about $107,000, with our local match at about $38,000. Do you want to note that prior to the adoption of this year's budget, we hadn't received funding, so this program will need to be added into the budget during a future budget amendment. We have received the interlocal agreement that will basically set up that Ferndale, as the grant recipient, is going to be the one that invoices us for the cost of our fair share on the installation. And then this agreement is right now only related to the installation. There will be ongoing costs at a worst-case scenario, which means that there aren't any subscriptions for the service and we don't have any sponsorships. Worst-case scenario, we're looking at $50,000 per year. But MOGO is in negotiations right now with their current sponsors. And if that falls through, we can start looking for more. So right now, we are looking for an approval of the agreement.
Questions? Commissioner Gibbs.
Mine's just a comment. I just came back from Dublin, and they have an incredible bike share program. It's all within the one city, but you can pick up a bike and you can ride it for €24 a year for a half an hour at a time, which gets you back and forth to work, back and forth to the library, to dinner, wherever you want to be. And every single person, because I'm involved in the government and these are questions I ask, and they speak English over there. Every single person I asked absolutely loved the program. So even though this is, an inter-community program, I think that this is really a good start. Now, this isn't this is going to be like renting a bike, right?
Similar, yeah.
Like the ride share or the bike share thing in Dublin. So there might be the possibility to purchase multiple packages.
There are corporation rates through MOGO. There's different packages that can be purchased, group rates. And you can do yearly subscription, monthly, day pass, all sorts of different things. And MOGO's model is typically, I believe, the first half hour is free.
Okay.
Once you have the subscription.
Yeah, and I think that's
Yeah.
how it is in Dublin. You can ride for free for a half an hour.
Yeah.
Commissioner Macy?
What happens if we don't fund it, the ongoing maintenance? We just have the bikes sitting there?
That is an excellent question that I don't have the answer to. I think at that point, we wouldn't be able to be part of the program.
Okay.
Commissioner Lavasser?
I did not see a length of term for this contract. So if I'm reading it correct, it's, right now we're talking about the $39,000 for the infrastructure. But again, to follow up on what Commissioner Macy said, there would need to be funds to fund it year to year to year to year.
Yes, this agreement is for the installation of the stations only. So there will be the ongoing stuff that we are currently working with MOGO to iron everything out to make sure, they want to make sure they've got sponsorship packages and everything ready to go before we do another.
How much control do we have over the location of the sites?
We can make recommendations, and we have. We've currently have a general outline of where we'd like to put them. MOGO obviously has transit experts that know a lot more about the better spacing between stations and all of that than anybody we would have on staff. So they're going to tell us more ideal locations, but
And what if there's a conflict there?
as that's the public right-of-way, we would probably be able to dictate.
When do we expect to know more? And just for everyone who may be watching, basically, we're talking about $50,000 a year, up to $50,000 a year in maintenance costs, unless that's offset through other revenue sources that come through. When do we expect to know whether there's sponsorships available or not?
We should know prior to the installation in spring.
All right.
But I don't have a hard deadline at this point.
Do we have experience that might give us a sense of how much we can expect in sponsorships and other revenues?
We don't, as this is such a new project for us. Mogo has been extremely successful within the city of Detroit, and we're bringing their business model. They're basically expanding into southern Oakland County with this.
Commissioner Perush?
Just a couple of questions. I've seen in multiple locations the stations where the bicycles are in the city of Detroit. We're expecting to be essentially the same design and the same size as the ones in the city of Detroit, maybe a little bit smaller.
Yeah, they have three main versions. They have the large one with a full kiosk that you can do all of your subscription and all of that. But they also have smaller satellite stations, and those are the ones that we've got priced out for the most part. We'll have one larger station and then 5 of the satellite stations.
Okay, I think the ones that I've seen in Detroit are the satellite stations, but I could be wrong, but I'm familiar with those. The second thing is, I'm wondering how you calculated the estimate of the ongoing costs of $50,400 per year. What kinds of things went into that? What are the elements of those costs?
Okay, so that goes into it's a per bike. I think, I don't have the number right offhand, but per bike, and they figure for every spot that you could put a bike, every other one is where you'll have a bike. So 50% of all possible bike parking stations, and it's $85 a month.
Okay.
Roughly, per bike.
Okay. That's it for now. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Gibbs?
Who's going to be monitoring the checkout points? Is that Mogo?
That is Mogo,
Monitoring
that is-
throughout southeast Oakland and Detroit?
Yes, that's what the $84, $85 per month per bike is paying for, monitoring that, keeping up the bikes, replacing bikes that need to be replaced, redistributing. If we end up with most of our bikes in the downtown stations, the Mogo people will replace and put them back where they go.
Okay, so I guess the question I'm trying to have answered is, what benefit does Royal Oak get besides a lot of bikes? But what, is there an income generating potential for this?
Not likely. No, the benefit of it is to have the program available in Royal Oak.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Grzan? Motions? Commissioner Douglas?
Move approval of the resolution?
Motion by Commissioner Douglas. Is there any support? Support by Commissioner Perush. Discussion.
I think it's awesome. I'm very excited. We've been talking about this for a couple of years. I think it was actually Commissioner Marley who was a very strong advocate of this when he served on this commission. And it's to his credit and to the credit of the staff that we've carried this through and are going to implement this program. I think it's awesome.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Macy?
So I have to admit that I was a little surprised when I saw the $50,000 ongoing maintenance cost. And I understand that that's a maximum, and we're hoping we're going to get sponsorships and we'll sell subscriptions, and that won't take up, that hopefully that will cover most of that amount, but $50,000 per year is a lot. And I was trying to get a parks person, I couldn't get a parks person for $70,000 a year. I think we need that more than we need these bikes. So I have to say that I support the idea of this program, and I think one thing we saw and we heard a lot when people were not happy about the transit millage that was on this ballot recently. One thing they were saying is that, we're not really looking for a Royal Oak program. We're looking for a regional transit program, and I think it's really cool that now we have this bike regional transit, because I think that is what people are seeking, is how to get around in this area. We're not quite as big as Dublin, but if you combine us together, then we count. But I'm concerned about the $50,000 of ongoing costs, so I'm hoping we see some sponsorships to defray that.
Commissioner Lavasser.
I have to agree with Commissioner Mace. The $50,000 a year would be better served to go toward our parks in this instance. Now, maybe we'd be fortunate we wouldn't have this cost, but really this soup is not done yet. That's something that I'd like to see first, that we have the sponsorships and that we have a better sense of what funds are going to be coming into pay the expenditures year to year to year, and we're not going to be stuck with this $50,000 expense each year, or have to make the decision that we are going to get out of the program and have wasted the infrastructure that we spent money on. I think it's not ready yet. I think we need to have those. We should have that information about the sponsorships first before we vote on this.
Commissioner Macy.
So I was just going to say, even though we're kind of agreeing with each other, I am going to support this motion, partially because I think there is, in fact, still time left, and we joined in to be part of this grant program with the idea that we would join in with our neighboring communities, and getting the infrastructure in place actually allows us the time, which is why I asked the question, like, what happens if we don't fund the $50,000? And I think that what happens is that we fall out of the grant, but we have time, and maybe it takes more than a year, to get enough funding, for enough sponsorships and enough subscriptions to make this work. But getting the infrastructure in place and at kind of a bargain price does seem like it makes sense to me at this point.
Yeah, I think I'll add is I'll be supporting it. This is a successful model in Detroit, Chicago, a lot of big cities, Dublin.
Dublin, yes.
And like Commissioner Gibbs said, people love it. It's an amenity, and it's also a useful tool to get people around, not just our city, but from other cities into our downtown, from our downtown elsewhere, and really, keep the southeast corner of Oakland County hot and on fire. And keeping us relevant. And I think that people in town, with the nearly 2,000 office workers we're going to be bringing to town, they're going to have the ability to get out and circulate and patronize all our businesses even more conveniently than they can right now by walking around. So I think when you look at it, the benefits are there. Cities wouldn't be doing it across the world if the benefits weren't there. There might not always be a P&L direct benefit, but putting in a play structure for young children. Last time I checked, young children don't pay taxes, and they don't sponsor things, but we put in the parking garages or put in the play structures because it brings benefit to the youngest members of our community and to families, et cetera. So it's an opportunity with grants here. It's an opportunity to coordinate, make it work outside the city of Royal Oak on a regional basis. And like I said, it's something that people assert and assess value on it from many different perspectives. So thank you, Mr. President, for your work, and this will be a great addition to our downtown. Mr. Gibbs.
Do you have a list of sponsors you have reached out to? Or could you make that list available to me? I'm thinking Beaumont, the new Henry Ford system, might be great, because this is also encouraging healthy bodies. You know what I mean? The schools possibly even.
So the current system in Detroit is sponsored by Henry Ford and HAP.
Okay.
And based on their contracts, I believe they have first right of refusal for any expansions, and that's where MoGo is at right now, is talking with them.
Okay.
I also believe the system in Dearborn is sponsored by Beaumont.
It is. So if Henry Ford HAP decides not to participate in the expansion, we can start looking at other sponsorship opportunities.
Okay, but so.
But we're not allowed to yet.
Okay, so MoGo is the only entity looking for sponsorship currently?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not even been placed in our lap yet?
Correct.
Okay, and what would be the time frame for that?
I don't have a hard deadline on that, but that is something I
Approximate?
can.
So I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm trying to get an idea.
No, we should know before installation happens. And I'm hoping to have it sooner than that.
And installation is expected
To
to
start
be
in the spring.
the spring? Okay.
All right, motion on the table. If there's any further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. All right, this brings us to item number 12, request for city sponsorship of Roam Home. Wonderful idea that was presented at public comment. I know many have been working on it, Mr. Curzon, so.
Yeah, I'm not gonna echo too much on what the planning committee was just discussing during public comment, but what they are looking for is to have this event become sponsored by the city, to allow for groups under the banner to be able to use city resources with no cost to them. So that is the resolution that's in front of you.
Questions? Commissioner Perush.
I'll move approval of this resolution.
Motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there support? Supported by Commissioner Macy. Discussion. Commissioner Perush.
Just one thing that I want to point out is that both the chamber and the school district were here, and it is the intent of both of those entities to do the same thing that we're doing here tonight, and that is to officially say, yes, we endorse this effort, and you can use us as a sponsor of the event, so that it is community-wide. It's not just one entity. It's not just a city project, or it's not just a school project. It's a community-wide project.
Commissioner Douglas.
Perhaps Commissioner Perush could speak to the difficulties of finding a venue for their umbrella event.
The kickoff event in October? Well,
or if not, I will repeat our conversation.
The committee had a meeting today. I've been working with the committee for a while, just because I got pulled in, just because they needed bodies to start working on this project. And I'm going to gradually step a little further back. But initially, the thought was to have it at the farmer's market because of the size of the venue, and we wanted to pull in as many community organizations as possible. At the meeting today, we essentially decided that perhaps that venue is too large, and now we're looking at using the library auditorium as a location for the kickoff event. But nothing is settled yet, nothing is certain yet. It will need to be a large enough event to hold 20, 30 organizations that may want to participate in that kickoff event. But the thinking now amongst the committee members is that the market, perhaps as wonderful as a facility it is perhaps maybe a little too big. So that's kind of where we are now.
So I'm sorry, I went on a fishing trip there, and now I'll add what I learned from you, and that was that the committee had great difficulty finding an open date at the farmer's market.
Oh, yes.
After exploring several possibilities, they were told that the farmer's market is essentially booked solid for 2019 with private events like weddings, birthdays, bar mitzvahs, and public events, public entertainment events. The market is thriving. It makes money from those events, and in fact, I'll add parenthetically, the market is self-sustaining. It doesn't have taxpayer dollars. It earns its keep from its events. So to say that the farmer's market is going to close is belied by the fact that it is so heavily booked for special events, as you encountered.
Can I just segue off into that? I didn't intend to do this, but you're absolutely right, that they are now booking events into 2020 because 2019 is essentially booked. When the city first started operating the market, and it was essentially just a farmer's market with some individual vendors leasing some spaces a little bit around the periphery, the market was losing money because essentially all it was a farmer's market on the weekend. And that wasn't generating enough revenue for the city in order to maintain it or to make any kind of improvements. The market only became self-sustaining when it started not only moving it into an authority-type structure, which it is now, but also opened it up to leasing and renting the facilities on a daily basis for all different types of activities, weddings, bar mitzvahs, anniversary celebrations, the craft fair that's going to be there later this week. That's what makes the market self-sustaining. And I know that we all love the farmers that are there, and we're all there every Saturday morning buying our produce. But bottom line, if it was just them, we wouldn't be able to sustain that business model, and we wouldn't have that facility in this community. Because when it was that way a long time ago, it wasn't working. It doesn't generate enough revenue in order to pay the bills and keep the building up. So it's important for us to recognize that the farmers market as an entity in the community is a lot more than just Saturday morning produce and organic farmers. It's providing a service and a venue for the community for a whole lot of events. And that's what makes it a sustainable entity, not just the farmers. As much as we love them all, they could not do it by themselves. That's the bottom line.
Sorry, Mayor, I hijacked that thread a little bit.
Yeah,
You
we
did.
kind of got off the path there. But
Plane's
anyway.
back, landed,
Yeah.
safe, secure, back in the hangar, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did anyone ever make the motion?
Yes, we have a motion
Okay, I'm sorry.
on the table. Yes, we did. I think you actually made the motion.
It could very well be.
Commissioner
You know, it's almost, 20 to 10, and I'm past bedtime by a long shot.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. All right, this brings us to item number 13, which was added to the agenda by Commissioner Dubak, discussion on the resolution in opposition of Senate Bill 1188, which is the state preemption of local tree protection.
Thank you, Mayor. As was mentioned in public comment, this bill has appeared to be fast-tracked in the lame duck session, which means there would not be time to address this at a future meeting, as lame duck is, probably going to last just over the next 2, maybe 3 weeks. Lame duck is generally a time when the majority cramps through unfavorable legislation after the election has happened, and therefore there's much less accountability, which is a really bad thing for our democracy. But one of the many bad bills that's being fast-tracked is Senate Bill 1188, which is yet another local preemption bill. The current majorities in the legislature have, over the last few years, had a field day in rolling back the authority of local governments to make decisions in the best interest of their residents. This is probably the 4th resolution we've sent to Lansing opposing such a bill that was inhibiting our ability to govern as intended under the Home Rule Act. This bill would basically say you cannot pass a tree protection ordinance except for specific trees as outlined in the bill, which are, so an oak would have to be 36 inches in diameter for you to be able to protect it by ordinance if this becomes law. This would basically render our current tree protection ordinance unenforceable, as we are protecting trees on, planned unit developments and telling developers that they need to protect trees to the greatest extent possible. And where there is a reason to take one down, they have to replace it 2 to 1. This would supersede that law and make it so that we cannot protect our trees. So there's a resolution that I drafted pretty quickly in front of you. Shall I read it? You guys want to hear? You want to hear it? All right. So, resolution in opposition to Senate Bill 1188, state preemption of local tree protection. Whereas the city of Royal Oak is committed to preserving, growing, and maintaining its tree canopy for the many health, environmental, and economic benefits trees provide. And whereas Royal Oak's commitment to tree planting and preservation has earned the city the National Arbor Day Foundation distinction of Tree City USA every year since 1976. And whereas the City Commission has adopted a tree protection ordinance directing developers to protect trees to the greatest extent possible and replace any that are moved 2 to 1. And whereas a robust tree canopy cools the temperatures of rooftops and hard surfaces and saves residents money on home cooling in the summer months. And whereas trees and vegetation increase property values and enhance the visual aesthetic of a community, contributing to the ability to attract and maintain residents. And whereas the city's dense network of trees contributes greatly to absorbing stormwater runoff, reducing the burden on sewer systems, and reducing the risk of flooding. And whereas tree ordinances like Royal Oaks provide predictability to developers and investors who understand at the start of a site design process what the city expects. And whereas Senate Bill 1188 would amend Public Act 110, the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, to prohibit local governments from adopting and enforcing tree and vegetation protection ordinances. Might have to amend that to say beyond the scope of trees defined in the act. And whereas Senate Bill 1188 is yet another attempt to preempt local control and to undermine local government's ability to address matters of concern to their residents. And whereas Senate Bill 1188 would prevent Royal Oak from enforcing its current tree protection ordinance and prohibit efforts to protect our tree canopy, or prohibit future efforts to protect our tree canopy via sound public policy. And whereas Senate Bill 1188 is in direct conflict with good policy development and does not account for the well-researched, established, and recognized benefits of trees and vegetation. Now therefore be it resolved, the City of Royal Oak opposes Senate Bill 1188 and strongly encourages our representatives in the State House and Senate to protect the quality of life, health, and property values of our residents, as well as the autonomy of local governments by standing in strong opposition to this ill-conceived bill. So I would move approval of that resolution.
Motion by Commissioner Dubak, second by Commissioner Douglas. Open it up for discussion. Commissioner Douglas.
Yeah, just briefly, I got wind of this from the Michigan Association of Planning this afternoon and sent a notice out to fellow commissioners. I did write to our state senator asking him to oppose this bill if it comes to the floor. And I just want to thank Commissioner DeBuck for turning it around so quickly and putting together a great summary in very short order. And I certainly will be happy to support this resolution.
Any other discussion? I'll just add, I mean, this city commission, at least those who have been up here for a long time, have been strong advocates of protecting our tree canopy. When DTE came in with their ground to sky program, we essentially put a halt to it. Some of us may have taken a little bit more aggressive posture than others, guilty as charged, but you know, we made sure that this community has the ability to preserve its trees. We saw some developments come in, and Commissioner DeBuck and I actually, you know, got real sad together when we saw the trees come down at the St. Denis school when they put up the Kroger, and that really kind of, you know, brought to our attention that we need to have strong ordinance changes to protect our trees, so the Planning Commission has guidelines and has litmus tests, and that developers, when they come to town, they understand what the expectations are, and that our trees are important to us, and we will do everything we can to preserve them. We put an exceptional amount of funding into tree planting over the last couple of years. So all of these efforts, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars in tree planting, all of these efforts are meaningless if we can't protect our investment, and we can't protect our way of life here in Royal Oak, and we can't protect something that, you know, we identify with. Our tree-lined streets, our beautiful neighborhoods, and all the benefits that trees bring as dictated and outlined in this resolution. So I'll be supporting this 100%, and I hope every commissioner does as well. All right. We have a motion on the table. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, this brings us to our last item added to the agenda, which is parking at Royal Oak Manor. Since we didn't have a lot of facts, I mean, this is the first that I think any of us heard of it. I checked my emails. I didn't see anything come via email. Not sure if we got any calls. It sounds like some communication was given to the police department today. So I'm going to let the police chief open this one up again, unless he, if you have any more information.
No, I guess the situation, as I understand it, is around the Royal Oak Manor, there's metered parking. They were given permission with those permit holders who were going to be kicked out of the Main Street lot during Arts, Beats, and Eats leading up to it. They were given permission to park in those metered spots right outside their building for the week leading up to it. During Arts, Beats, and Eats, all those spots are reserved for vendors, and they're marked that way. I believe they had like a homemade permit or something. Lieutenant Moore did go over there. No tickets were issued, but he said you can't park there. And in fact, we helped get residents to and from the structure. One resident, I believe, called multiple times for rides. But after that, it was never intended to be permanent and wasn't an issue as far as I'm aware. It's my understanding that sometime this weekend, some residents came in because they thought they could use their permits to park there. And the duty supervisor, after talking to them, agreed to dismiss their tickets. But Sergeant Tykow, who oversees the parking, sent an email to Mr. Ashley saying, listen, they can't park there, that's not proper. I believe there was some communication back and forth. He left a message with Lieutenant Moore, and I'm not sure why or how he got that number, but they had a meeting set up for tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, between Sergeant Tykow. They were doing some sort of phone tag or something like that. So
So if I understand this correctly, they were residual permits from the Arts, Beats, and Eats?
no, these are the permits that some residents have permits to park in the Main Street lot.
Okay, in the Main
So,
Street lot.
Leading up to Arts, Beats, and Eats, the Main Street lot, once it got taken over, but before it was needed for vendors, they kind of allowed them to park there. The email went out on that Saturday, I believe, asking Mr. Ashley to advise the residents, like, listen, you can't park there, we can't be dismissing these tickets because they're not supposed to be parking there. It's metered parking, that's what it is. So there's a avenue you go through the traffic committee if you want that to become permit parking or whatever.
Commissioner Lavasser.
And I think we're talking about 6th Street, Williams, and 7th Street as it borders Royal Oak Manor here, is that?
I believe so, yeah.
All right. I mean, this is an issue that pops up if not every meeting, every other meeting, and I believe it really requires that we take some affirmative steps to get it resolved once and for all. I believe you mentioned referring to the traffic committee. I'm not sure if traffic or the DDA is our parking committee would be the appropriate one, but I do believe that it warrants taking some very clear affirmative steps forward. Myself, I think the logical step here would be to make this permit parking on 6th Street, 7th Street, and Williams bordering Royal Oak Manor. Maybe the DDA or the traffic committee would have a different perspective on that, but I think we need to get that perspective. Now, the question, and I'll pose it to Don, is who's better suited for this, the DDA or the traffic committee?
The DDA has been designated as the parking committee by the city commission.
Okay. Right, in that case, I'm going to move that we refer this to the DDA to provide us with a proposed solution to the parking problems over at Royal Oak Manor.
Motion by Commissioner Lavasser. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Dubak. Discussion? Commissioner Macy?
I just want to clarify, so what we're telling them, looks to us like this could be permit parking, is there a reason not for it to be? Is that, or we're just asking them to solve the whole problem of Royal Oak Manor? Because that seems like a big ask.
I think we're looking for recommendations, and I mean, my gut feeling on what the recommendation should be is that it's permit-only parking surrounding Royal Oak Manor. Maybe they'll have a different perspective, and maybe they'll have good reasons that would be convincing here, but we do need to get this moving forward.
Commissioner Dubak.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to ask the question. I know that there's been several discussions of this facility over the years, that the parking shortage was not created by the city. It's been a long-standing problem that's grown as the population's grown, and folks are, and Commissioner Perush spoke to this at length when we had an official agenda item on this maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and took some action by expanding the permits that are available. So now we're looking at, I guess, asking the question about going a step further. What I would really want to know is the legal implications of that, where we've been, I think, and the DDA has been pretty clear about, street parking in the downtown is public parking. And you start privatizing parking in the downtown, where are folks going to park to easily access businesses, which I think ironic, because that's been one of the debates that's going on about, the importance of surface parking and street parking. My question is, if we said that there's an exception here because of the circumstances and the fact that there's a senior tower, and this is for the city attorney, is there a legal issue there if we say the threshold, the reason that we said yes in this circumstance is because these are seniors?
Per se, I don't think there's a problem. I mean, I think you have the authority to designate areas or any given area of the city for permit parking for basically whatever reason you feel is appropriate.
Okay.
It's part of your inherent authority to control the public right of way.
Okay. So I'm happy to ask the question, get a recommendation from the DDA on whether or not they think, this is appropriate and does it indeed address the problem. Although I would also like to bring Royal Oak Manor into the conversation where, as we've heard on multiple occasions, that folks with severe mobility disabilities are having to park across the street. But my understanding is that Royal Oak Manor's policy is not to make sure the spots on the lot Royal Oak Manor owns are giving priority to people with mobility impairments. And I would think when I asked that question before, I was told that they're based on seniority, not necessity.
Mr. Ashton, Mr. Dubuck, we got to keep the,
Yeah,
there was a
so
motion on the
I would
table.
like to make sure that folks with mobility impairments are given, that they're looking at their processes too, to make sure they're maximizing the effectiveness and the use of their parking. So that, and we can have a conversation about the best use of the public parking surrounding the building.
Mr. Douglas.
Yes, some issues that the DDA will inevitably consider are, there are places in the city where, there are streets where there is permit-only parking, but these are streets that don't have parking meters. So here we have meters, so a question would be, will people be paying for their permits at a rate maybe commensurate with what they're paying for the Main Street lot? And then the question would be, is this exclusively permit parking, or does it just allow you to park with a permit if spaces are available? I mean, I think those are some of the things that are gonna have to be teased out here.
Yeah, I agree. I think at one point in time, there weren't meters here, and the DDA, for whatever reason, and I'm not sure on the history of it, we didn't get a strong answer, but, they decided to put meters in the spot for whatever reason. So there's a solution there. If their meters aren't being used by very many people at this point for surrounding businesses or whatever, then it makes the argument much stronger to say, okay, well, you can put in permit parking there. If there's a mix of traffic, then I think the DDA has to consider all those factors, and maybe it's a hybrid model. But I don't think in any way this commission is turning a deaf ear, and I'd like to say it's unfair to put too much pressure on our police officers that are enforcing the law as it is written today. And there is a meeting scheduled, it sounds like, already tomorrow. So, this happened this weekend. Complaints are being heard within 1 or 2 business days to figure out what's going on. We're looking forward to the crosswalk that's going to be placed there. We've made some accommodations with the future developer of that lot across the street to put in some parking passes. So we're conscious of it. But we can't solve a problem unless we're made aware of it, and I think, the timeline of 1 or 2 days, bringing it up to our chief and to the police department to inform us better about what's going on is helpful in this narrative. But the DDA will have the experience and they will have the, authority to make a recommendation here. I think I had Commissioner Perush.
It'll just be interesting for me to understand the history behind the meters in that location, because if I understand that location correctly, it's almost exclusively residential, not necessarily single-family residential. There are some apartments and some duplexes, older duplexes, and some condos that are right in that area. But yet there are meters. My guess is that it was because of all of the downtown business, and you have people coming into the downtown and looking for places to park, and people were parking in front of people's houses, people complained, and the DDA essentially said, okay, one way to solve that, if there's too much downtown activity spilling over to into the neighborhood, is let's meter those streets. So if you really want to park there, you're going to have to pay to park there to discourage a lot of overflow parking into the neighborhood. Unfortunately, it has unintended consequences in terms of its impact on the Royal Oak Manor. So I guess I will be interested in understanding from the DDA, number one, why did they put the meters there? And now if we remove the meters, or if we make this permit parking, is that somehow going to make other types of parking issues that they were dealing with before worse?
Right.
Not only for the individual single-family residents, but also potentially for the Royal Oak Manor residents. So I guess I'm just going to be interested in hearing what their conversation will be and what their ultimate conclusions are, including, why did they put those meters there in the first place?
That's a really good point, Commissioner Perush, because every time over the years that we've had a nearby residential street ask for permit parking, for their street, it's usually the street over the next 6 months later that asks for the same thing because you've shifted the parking to, the next street over. So it's got to be looked at from a comprehensive perspective in the downtown to get and knowing the history, because there's a reason why they did it. But knowing it, I agree, is paramount. I think I had Commissioner Gibbs next.
What are we going to do in the meantime? I mean, I realize there's a meeting tomorrow, but I don't know, or maybe I just don't understand. Would Chief O'Donoghue and the police be able to make a decision going forward for Royal Oak Manor residents? Or is that something that needs to come back to us because, or go to the DDA, because we have seniors who, mobility issues or otherwise, can't park their car, it's snowing outside, it's raining outside, it's just a dangerous situation. And we need to look at this in the immediate situation as well as in the future. So can somebody answer that question?
It's a question for staff, but I think the basic answer is we can't circumscribe law and due process. It has to go to the DDA Parking Committee. Commissioner Dubak?
Yeah, I guess I can't necessarily answer the question, but I would say I think we're working in good faith, and I have been working in good faith to address this issue, which to my knowledge, there was not a major change. This has been the status quo here for many, many years. And nothing was taken away, nothing reduced the parking. It's been this way. You know what I mean? So we're talking about changing the status quo to improve the situation, and I think we've been open to that. And we keep taking steps forward and keep getting.
Mr. Ashley, please.
I think the situation with the communication around Arts Beats and Eats and where those passes could be used is a miscommunication, but no one gave something and then took it away. There was no policy passed by this commission. There was no changing of where those passes could be used. That was never voted on as a matter of policy. So I want to be clear about that. So what I think we should continue to do is take steps forward so we're being thoughtful and enacting a policy that actually solves the problem and two, is sustainable, right? And doesn't create multiple other problems that have other residents in the area coming out here saying, now you've caused this problem for us. So you can't, I don't want to act rashly. I want to get it done right and respond to the residents' concerns.
And I appreciate that, and I just want to make this comment, but this has been brought to the DDA before, because I've been to those DDA meetings about bagging the meters for permanently and for the time period of Arts Beats and Eats or whatever, Rib Fest, whatever other festival is going on. So I'm not pointing fingers or placing blame, but I think it needs to be encouraged that the DDA, take some action so that we can resolve this.
Well, I think that's the motion on the table. Yeah. Commissioner Lavasser.
After this motion, I'm going to have another motion, so please don't move to ask for adjournment too quickly. I will have a question with regard to that at that time, but I'll ask it now. The passes that the residents of Royal Oak Manor have, are they unique in some way, or are they similar passes to folks?
They're lot passes, and if I remember right, there was an issue with them getting, so I think we resolved an issue with them because they weren't able to get there in a timely enough manner. There were some issues, so we kind of held some back in talking with Mr. Ashley, we work with them. How many does your building need? And we hold those out and give those residents opportunity to get those. So they're just for that lot.
Are those passes distinguishable from those held by other pass holders that utilize that lot?
No.
What percentage of the pass holders? Well, let me ask it this way. Do people have passes specifically for that lot and those are distinguishable?
Yes.
Okay. And what percentage of the lot users that have this pass are Royal Oak Manor?
I have no idea.
Most of do you know where those pass users are? Or most of those folks on the west side of Main Street?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can answer that. Mr. Ashley, we have a motion on the table. I'm sorry, you can't speak. call for the vote. There's no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner Lavasser.
I've got two motions. The first will be that we give Mr. Ashley a moment to respond to the question. He believes he has some information that could be useful for us. So that'll be my first motion. Then after that, I'll follow up with the second motion.
Motion by Commissioner Lavasser. Is there a second?
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Gibbs. Discussion? If none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Commissioner Lavasser, you can ask your questions.
Mr. Ashley, you heard the questions. What feedback do you have with regard to the,
To the chief of police, I would like to clarify what happened on Arts Beats and Eats. I originally talked to Sergeant Tyco, and he told me for all of Arts Beats and Eats to go to the city treasurer, pick up this pass. It's a Royal Oak pass with the dates on it, telling where to park, when to park, that you can park in front and around Royal Oak Manor. The vendors have been moved to a different area. You will not be disturbed. That parking is yours because of Arts Beats and Eats. You can park everybody on Williams, on 6th, and on 7th. So I went to the city treasurer, picked up these passes, distributed them to everybody that needed them, especially the people with mobility problems. Those were the priorities that got them. Others were put in places in our parking lots that normally HUD will not let us park. Normally, we did that against HUD rules. Then that Saturday, Lieutenant Moore and his partner came down and said, your passes are not valid. You have to move your cars by 5 o'clock. I had 28 cars I had to get moved in less than 2.5 hours. He told me that you were given the wrong information by the police department for these passes. This is not made-up passes. This is the city of Royal Oak gave me these. I will pass it around.
Mr. Ashley, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm still having a hard time understanding. It sounds like this was a recent issue.
This
where
has
people
been.
got tickets recently. Were they
Right.
using their
Well, I wanted-
passes
yeah,
2.5 months?
But I wanted to correct the mayor. I wanted to correct the chief of police
Well-
on made-up stuff.
Okay,
Yes.
well, I don't know that our chief of police is making up anything, but what I'm trying to understand is help us understand the problem.
Okay, I understand the problem. We have people.
I understand that. Let me tell you what I understand, and then you can help me fill in the gaps. Maybe that's easy.
Okay.
I understand that you were given those passes, like all the residential streets in the area, to say, okay, during Arts Beats and Eats, you can park here.
Correct.
I understand that there might have been a communication snafu and you had to move for vendors. I understand that and appreciate that and understand that concern. I believe we talked about that around Arts Beats and Eats.
Correct.
Okay? But now you're in front of us today.
Right.
And I'm trying to understand the issue that is so urgent, because I guess I'm not understanding, were people using those passes? But what is the urgency? Because you left a message for the police department today. They didn't call you back by 2 o'clock.
Well, no, I got called by Sergeant Tykow, who said he has to talk to the deputy chief of police. didn't hear back from Sergeant Tykow.
But what's the urgent issue right now?
The urgent issue. The people that are parked around Royal Oak Manor are all the people that can't walk that distance and are afraid to cross Main Street and the railroad tracks because of mobility problems.
Okay.
Those are the people that park around Royal Oak Manor. They go to City Hall every month, spend $45 for the regular parking passes for that lot. So in other words, the city is making money off those parking passes that.
So Mr. Ashley, let me keep you on task here, because I want to make sure I understand the problem, because this is important to us. I mean, we
Right.
care about every single person. I know our police officers care about every single citizen and senior citizens. I think we've worked in good faith. When we can understand what's going on, we're here to help.
Right.
So I see you waving the pass, and my understanding, what you told us at public comment, and unfortunately, I mean, we're hearing it at public comment, we can't have debates because we would still be at public comment right now. So, that, my understanding that what I heard you say was, okay, these people at Royal Oak Manor had these passes, they put them in their car, and they parked on the meter spots, and they got tickets 2.5 months after either the expiration on those passes. But what I hear you saying now is that the people of Royal Oak Manor should be parking in those metered spots. They should have passes to be able to park in and around the building and get rid of the meters, right?
Well, here's the problem. Those people are not any special passes. They're the regular parking passes that we buy for the parking lot 7, P7. The people that park around the manor are the people that have mobility problems only.
Okay.
All right. There are no special passes. We had the understanding with the parking, with Sergeant Tyco, that we would not be ticketed as long as we had the regular parking lot P7 hang tags that we buy, that we buy normally every month. If we have those, we can park there.
In the metered areas?
In the metered areas without.
Forever?
We were told until somehow the problem was resolved and the police department and the DEA and the city commission were working on a solution. I haven't heard that. The last DDA meeting was canceled, so it won't be until December before the DEA meets again.
But Mr. Ashley, so it really is, what I hear the problem, what it's boiling down to is there's an understanding on your end, and maybe some of the residents at Royal Oak Manor, that the parking passes for Lot 7 there,
Yeah.
if you have those parking passes and you happen to park in the metered spots, that you were given permission to park there.
Correct.
And the person that gave you that permission, you've said some names, some sergeants and lieutenants, that's fine. But those same people are also the ones saying, no, we didn't. So we have a he said, she said situation, or he said, or they said, right? But I don't understand, I mean, I guess for us, you know, I think that to me is something that, you know, can be resolved between meeting with the chief and understanding and adjudicating those tickets if there was something bona fide and said that way. Sometimes things do get lost in translation, and maybe there's a better job to communicate. But I think the real issue at hand is, it's not the Arts, Beats, and Eats pass there, it's not anything, it's whether or not the request of whether or not we should remove, at the recommendation of the DDA or not, remove the metered parking there, or at least allow people with parking passes at Royal Oak Manor to park there.
Yes, but see, the people that also visit, if there's an open spot, it's used by regular people, and they put in their meters, so.
Okay.
What I'm saying, the Royal Oak Manor people park there are the ones that have reasonable need.
Okay, because I gotta tell you, I misunderstood when you came to public comment. I didn't have anything from anybody from Royal Oak Manor. I had no correspondence. So coming in, it's hard for me to prepare and understand and take action. But after understanding here at 10 at night, that the sky's not falling right now. It's not that, I mean, we have some tickets that were issued. There's a communication discussion that's going on where, you know, I think that's pretty good turnaround, 24 hours, whatever. I mean, this happened on Saturday. I heard some things happen on, some tickets were issued on Saturday, and the chief is willing to talk to you about it. But what I don't see, and it's tough for me to follow, is that there's a significant catastrophe where our police officers or anybody from the city have a mark on the back of senior citizens. I think that's, can we agree that's a little unfair to say that?
No, well, no. No, it is fair to say, because there's a lot of reasons this city has treated.
Okay, Mr. Ashley, maybe that was an unfair question for me to ask, but I'm gonna tell you, I don't believe I don't believe that this city commission has not done anything but work in good faith. Things are slow, there's processes, there's laws we have to follow, there's other agencies like the DDA. We're making a motion here tonight to get you heard in front of the DDA, and I would encourage you to prepare and talk about the visitor situation, talk about what the best plan is. And I think every time that we've had those discussions, we've come up with ideas that are both creative and both helpful, and we're making progress, okay?
Right.
But I guess I walked away believing that, you know, there was a catastrophic, you know, officer out there just ticketing a bunch of seniors out of spite and anger, and I don't believe that to be the case. What I believe to be the case is there's a communication issue. I believe you. And I'm trying to understand what the problem is. Now I think that we understand what the issue is. I think that's a very reasonable request that we can look at.
Okay. The problem is, we were given no notification that this was going to happen. they just started ticketing over Thanksgiving holiday on the Saturday. No, we weren't told, well, guys, you're gonna have to move, we give you a couple of days to move your cars. No, they automatically just started ticketing. And that is what upset a bunch of people at Royal Oak Manor.
I acknowledge that folks, when I get a ticket, I get frustrated, let me tell you. And especially if I feel that, I understood something that I may have misunderstood, or I may have understood correctly and someone else must have misunderstood it. But I think we can get through that misunderstanding. And I think that this commission has shown that if you have a good idea and it's well vetted and a recommendation, just like anybody in the city, regardless if they're Royal Oak Manor or anybody, if they have an idea with parking or whatever, we're going to look at it and we're going to remedy it because we want everyone to be successful in this city.
Okay. I
Okay?
will see the chief of police come tomorrow at 1:00. I will be over there at the police and we can hack it out.
Well, I think you might want to call him in the morning, find out what his schedule is. He's
Well,
a pretty important man. He helps keep Royal
Already
Oak one of
told
the
me 1
safest cities
o'clock.
in the country. So
He
if 1 o'clock works for him, that's up to him,
He
but.
already told me 1:00.
Well,
Came
Sergeant
from,
Tykow there, so we can clear all this up.
okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Commissioner Lavasser.
All right, the DDA, we've already moved and approved, requesting that they provide us a long-term solution here. I want to propose a short-term solution that until such time as the DDA makes the recommendations and we move upon those and those recommendations that we adopt are effective, that the parking lot 7 passes that are currently used and recognized across the street be honored in around the meters surrounding Royal Oak Manor.
Motion by Commissioner Lavasser, second by Commissioner Gibbs. Commissioner Dubak.
Is that for any of the other dozens, hundreds of people that have Lot 7 passes? How are we going to distinguish?
Well, that's why I asked the question whether those are distinguished. The chief told me they're not distinguished, which is unfortunate, but my gut is that the parking lot across the street on the other side of Main is going to be more convenient for most of the Lot 7 parking passes, and that very few of those will utilize the meters around Royal Oak Manor. That's my gut. We obviously don't have the benefit of the best information there, but I see it as a situation that will at least help alleviate this problem in the short term while we're looking for the DDA's long-term solution.
Commissioner Dubak.
So I think it puts the DDA in an unfair situation because now you're essentially giving the parking and letting us be the good guy and putting the DDA in the tough situation of saying whether or not that can remain, which you're putting the DDA in the situation of having to take it away, having you given it, which it makes the ask of the DDA feel somewhat disingenuous and unnecessary. If you're going to move right now, just that those passes be respected on the street, then move for that. But why are we asking the DDA if there's another motion basically preempting whatever recommendation they might give us? I'm not quite tracking that.
Commissioner Macy.
So that's an interesting take, Commissioner Dubek. So I have to think about that, because what I was thinking was similar but the opposite, which was like, oh, maybe this will give us a chance to see what the problems are with this plan, and then the DDA, it'll kind of expose if there are any flaws or if this is not an ideal solution for some reason, it's kind of a test run to see temporarily if it works or doesn't work, and then the DDA will have more information. But I hear what you're saying too, like then if it turns out it's not working, then they're the ones who have to say, sorry, we're taking away, but presumably by then they'd be able to say, because we know X and Y and Z that we didn't know before.
Commissioner Perush.
And I'm to understand that those passes just originated around Arts, Beats, and Eats? That before that time, we were back to having people have to pay the meters?
No, the P7 lot passes are for the P7 lot passes. What's unclear to me is are they asserting that those residents have been parking there since Arts, Beats, and Eats? I don't believe that's the case, but I can't confirm that. So I don't know. We don't understand is why they came up. When we issued some tickets and some residents complained, we dismissed those tickets and we sent an email saying, this isn't right. You're not allowed to park there with those passes. It's the end of November. I don't believe that they've been parking there since September, but I don't write the parking tickets. I've got 9 part-time parking enforcers who do that, and It's, I don't know why this is I still don't understand why it's an issue right now, but tomorrow's meeting, we can hopefully clarify some of that stuff and,
But they certainly didn't use those passes before they were told they could park there for arts,
well, I
sports, and
don't,
notes.
well, whether or not they were told or whether there's a miscommunication, I don't know. It was a conversation between Sergeant Tykow and Mr. Ashley. And whether or not what was said and how it was said, I don't know. But we are with Arts, Bates, and Eats, we explained that this isn't gonna work, we can't have you here. We have to manage the whole parking enforcement area, and there's a lot of moving parts. And so, I thought we actually treated the residents of the manor very well in that situation and resolving it. We haven't had an issue there until this weekend. And what I don't understand is why this weekend? And I still don't understand. We're gonna figure that out tomorrow and find out what's going on. So,
Okay.
but this is not a new problem. I don't know why. Nothing's changed. I don't know why it's a new problem, I guess.
Maybe I'll give a few comments at the motion that's on the table. I tend to agree. I mean, the urgency, I think this entire commission is looking for solutions for everybody in town. I think that the way the motion is on the table right now, based on a gut feel, based on the fact that we don't have any answers how many Lot 7 pass holders there are, we could actually create a more complicated situation for people there where, everybody with a Lot 7 pass can park there. We have no way right now to distinguish between Lot 7 or that, folks that are from Royal Oak Manor. I think that we would create many weeks of work and effort, moving forward. I think we can give it a couple weeks here till, when's the next DDA meeting, Don? Mr. Johnson?
December 3rd Wednesday, I believe.
Okay, so I think and I feel that the DDA is going to give us some positive recommendations to not have a knee-jerk solution, but to really, and create extra problems to complicate the situation even further, that this body can decide upon to help the folks at Royal Oak Manor. I don't want to make the problem any more complicated. It seems like communication is already an issue. It seems like how things get from Mr. Ashley to the residents to Mr. Ashley to the police department is all a big issue. And I see if you go forward with this, it's going to add another layer of confusion for 2 or 3 weeks. And I think it's best for us to make sure we get it right. And then there's one message and it's permanent. And folks will understand it and we won't have issues with chaos and tickets in the meantime. Mr. Johnson.
Just wanted to clarify one thing in terms of the role of the DDA as the parking committee. The parking committee is an advisory body. The final decision on any of this is the city commission's. And it was the city commission that put meters in those locations and got rid of the permit parking that was there once before.
Commissioner Macy?
That doesn't make me, it feels like that makes me a lot more likely to do this. So I guess I'm gonna disagree with you, Mayor, that this is gonna cause more chaos or confusion, because it seems to me like this is maintaining what has possibly been the status quo. We aren't quite sure. But we have the ability to change this, as was just stated, 2 weeks from now. And it seems like the harm of doing it, the chaos that's caused, is just as fewer tickets to write. And the harm of not doing it is having some upsetting and confused residents who are trying to park there and getting ticketed. So it just seems to me that in this situation where we have a chance to do a trial run for a couple weeks, I don't know, seems like an easy win.
Commissioner Douglas?
Yeah, I'm going to weigh in against a trial run. For the reasons that the mayor has articulated. Suddenly all of the P7 people can park there and Mr. Ashby notifies them and they all start parking there, and then maybe it changes and then they all have to be notified that they can't park there anymore, but some of them won't get the message and they'll get tickets and he'll be down knocking on the chief's door. The wheels of government grind slowly, and I'm just not inclined to go to a temporary solution when Actually, nothing has changed. I mean, all of the circumstances in this area are what they have been for the past years. And a couple more weeks is not going to make a big difference.
Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor
So
say
the
aye.
motion, restate the motion?
Let the motion again?
You want me to recite it?
Yes.
That parking pass, the parking pass is currently honored for parking lot number 7. Also be honored at the meters surrounding the Royal Oak Manor until such time that the DDA makes recommendations and we move upon those, and those recommendations as adopted become effective.
Or react further.
Okay. Everyone understand the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
To the hands of the ayes? Okay. All right. So we'll wait what the DDA recommends to help find the best parking situation for the residents of Royal Oak Manor. In the meantime, we'll have a meeting between the police chief and Royal Oak Manor and maybe even solicit some more ideas from that conversation. And we're confident if everyone remains optimistic and productive and works in good faith, that there will be a permanent solution there that will benefit the people of Royal Oak Manor.
I hope so.
All right.
If
If there's not any other important business for the city of Royal Oak, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
By Commissioner Dubuck, is there a support?
Second.
Support by Commissioner Douglas. Discussion? With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. We're adjourned.